What's going on? It's 6 o'clock from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Robert Walsh. Titans mandatory minicamp begins today and will run through Thursday. Eager to see whether Kevin Byard attends, but one Titan who will be in attendance is Tier Tart. He signed his second-round tender worth $4.3 million in time for today's minicamp. Tart had signed a waiver earlier in the offseason to be able to practice, but in order to practice at minicamp, he needed to sign this tender. The NFL is probing Colts cornerback Isaiah Rodgers for possible betting. Rodgers took to Instagram to provide a statement. Rodgers says, "I made an error in judgment, and I'm going to work hard to make sure that those mistakes are rectified through the process." In the NHL, Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals was a rout for the Golden Knights as the team Will Bowling irrationally hates dominated the team Ramon Foster didn't believe existed. 7-2 and extends their lead to 2 games. The Golden Knights are 2 wins away from their first Stanley Cup, and the series shifts to Florida. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome to your Tuesday morning on RKW. We are Ramon, Kayla, and Will. And we're powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, where Tennessee Titans mandatory minicamp day is here. A big week begins for the team at St. Thomas Sports Park. We give you all the biggest storylines and lots of NFL discussion with Tyler Dunne at 7:20. Sam Monson of PFF at 8:20, and the one and only Ron Slay in hour 4 this morning, alongside our 11-year NFL veteran, Ramon Foster.
Yay.
Our broadcast journalist with a capital J, Kayla Anderson, and the one and only Robert Walsh, who is fully rested and got a long nap yesterday.
Something like that.
Behind the glass, my name is Will Bowling. It is a beautiful morning in Nashville, Tennessee. How are we feeling?
You say that. It was kind of hazy this morning, man. I'm like, is that the humidity popping up already or what? Well,
it probably is.
It looked dusty coming from Hendersonville, from north of the city. I was looking at the skylines like, man, it is a little – it was just dusty looking like it's going to be a scorcher or something today. I'm not sure.
I'll be living that.
You'll be out in that?
Yeah, I'm going to Titans.
Yeah, that's right. That's right,
yeah,
Kayla.
Got to get my my gear on here, ready to sweat it out.
Well, there it is. Today's air index is unhealthy for most groups.
What does that mean?
That's what that means.
Pollution. That's why I said it looks hazy with the moon yesterday or whatever.
Yeah.
I swear it's pollution. Why it's pink?
I don't know what that is, but it just says air quality index is 105, which is worse than yesterday.
So wear your masks. I'm just joking.
Air quality maps. I didn't even know what that meant. I got to look up the definition of that word.
I never know the groups they're talking about.
You think you're in one of them, though?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm good. I never even noticed those things.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, the sunrise looks cool, and then I just keep going.
Yeah, no.
That's the sun, or I can't even. That's a sun.
Yeah, I smoke cigarettes. You think I'm worried about the air?
I thought you quit.
I did quit, but I mean, I naturally put things that are inside my body that are bad for it. You think I'm worried about the world? I trust you. I live here. What are you going to do? Kick me out of here?
Oh, yeah.
Apparently,
very unhealthy.
Orange is level 3 on a 6-tier leaderboard. That's not the right word, but that's what we're going to do.
We're in third place. We got rookie
numbers.
we got to pump these pollution numbers up.
Stupidly competitive.
I'm sorry, what is going on out there? Everybody should remain indoors as much as possible. When it's very unhealthy.
We're terrifying.
I'm just looking at the different levels.
Oh.
So Daniel Breezy of News 2, who I worked with over there, had put up like color codes of what it all looks like. And so it's like good to very unhealthy. So very unhealthy is purple. Good is like green.
Oh.
She says code orange for Trigg, Christian, Stewart, and Montgomery counties, which is not us, but.
Well, Nicholas on Twitter, at Ramon Kayla Will, chimes in saying Canadian wildfires are the cause.
That's what I was wondering. You remember like 3-4 years ago when the one came from Brazil? Oh, no, South Africa. that
What?
went over Brazil and
No.
came to the United
I
States.
do
We
not
all had that haze
I
go
don't
over
even-
the southern United States.
I don't remember that.
Oh, y'all don't remember that? Y'all wasn't following like the big dust cloud from like Brazil
I
or
barely
South
know what
America?
day it is.
God, y'all, what is wrong with y'all, man? I can't be the only one out here paying attention to the news and the weather. And,
Well, I've for the last 4 months, I've paid a lot more attention to the news. But
but yeah, there was, I forget what it was. It was either from like Africa or like Brazil, and there was like a sweeping like cloud that came through, and it hit Middle Tennessee because it was like on the news and everything.
Dang.
Y'all don't.
well, it was crazy
No.
going to
Yeah.
UT during the Gatlinburg wildfires.
What?
Yeah,
you
I
could
heard
see
about
it.
those.
'Cause I was
then?
a sophomore. Oh yeah, I mean it was just right across the mountains.
Yeah, no, I never saw it. I
Oh yeah,
Those
pretty
were
wild.
bad.
Yeah.
the whole campus just smelled like smoke all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Oh no.
I mean there were wildfires like 20 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
Did not even realize that. Well, I
Oh, yeah.
remember I remember those wildfires. I don't remember significance of course, wasn't on campus and stuff, but
I was calling Heritage High School basketball at the time near Wallen, Tennessee. And that is like right at the foothills of the Smoky Mountains in Blount County.
Yeah.
It's like the other way to go around if you want to take like the Dragon and like take all of the super windy roads to go into like Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg. And I remember calling a high school basketball game like one of those nights, and it was like you couldn't see like 50 feet in front of you.
God,
There
dog.
was smoke everywhere.
How do you just go slow, drive slow?
Well, I mean that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I think that's the time to punch it. You can't see anything. You might as well just be going as fast as you can.
you say live life on the edge.
Right. You were correct, though. Africa last year had a huge brush fire that affected visibility in North America.
Yeah, told you.
That was last year?
It was
Well,
last
it
year.
goes to show I wasn't paying attention last year.
So the Canadian wildfires, if there's anything I've ever said, it's that you cannot trust Canadians with their wildfires. You've got to shut these guys down.
You gotta
Smokey the
Stop
Bear
burning
needs to
things,
take
guys.
A trip up there.
Stop
Yeah.
it.
Well, this year in particular is supposed to be very, very dry too. So we may see a good bit of
You know,
those.
the West Coast actually got a surprising amount of rain in California, which is very bizarre. So you hope that helps a little.
Well, according to Red, it's supposed to be El Nino this year, and it's supposed to be flow underneath us and
Interesting.
all
Look
types
at you,
of.
weathercaster.
Well, no, that's to our resident meteorologist, Rhett Bryan. That's all. That was
That's right.
it.
I always forget he's a meteorologist too,
Yep.
Big weather guy.
Yeah, big weather guy. Big weather guy.
like Brett Kern. Look at that.
Like Brett Kern. And most specialists too. They gotta know it. Like
They're like told you better know the weather.
yeah, for real, because those kicks matter.
Yeah.
Will just broke it down yesterday about track, the headway.
Yep.
Like I couldn't believe like the wind like legitimately can slow you down, but there's ways of measuring
Speed
it.
you up too.
Speed you up also.
Oh yeah.
What's
Well, you can only have a certain amount of wind, otherwise your time's illegal.
Is from nature.
Yeah.
It's not my fault you guys playing this run at 3 o'clock.
It still counts for like that day. Like you still win because everyone's using the same amount of wind, but
Right.
like you can't use it as like a record.
I go from running a 5.5 to a 5.3.
Faster than that.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it matters.
That's
that
why there are
much?
like all conditions records and there are actual like ratified records.
Oh, I had no idea it was that serious. Well,
By the way, Karen Davis in the FM Bank shop. Sorry, I had to mention this because there are obviously other people in other counties. So she is in Montgomery County.
okay.
So it is the orange for them today.
It's orange for them. Does that legitimately means
Shouldn't be out
mask
there
and
for
everything?
a ton of time.
I think I might go give me a workout in Montgomery County today.
Wearing a what mask?
No,
And that was Talking Weather on Ramon K.
absolutely not.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. It's code orange if you're betting on sports as an NFL player.
Oof. Code red.
This is another one for one of the best Indianapolis Colts defenders and kick returner, Isaiah Rodgers, who takes full responsibility for his actions in his own tweet last night. Former 6th-round pick entering the final year of a 4-year contract. Not a great way to enter a contract year. Saying a sportsbook account was opened under the name of an associate of Rodgers. Approximately 100 bets were placed on the account over an undisclosed amount of time, including on Colts games. Most of the bets are in the $25 to $50 range, although there was at least one low 4-figure bet.
Wow.
So I don't think you will be seeing Isaiah Rodgers in the 2023 season at the very least.
Will not, man. And we were speaking about him a little bit before we came on air. A guy that played well for them last year. Also has a kick return on his stat line too. In the last year, y'all, of a contract, like he was due to get the lottery. He was due to actually bet on himself this year and just completely fumbled the bag. You want to talk about fumbling the bag? He did. Isaiah Rodgers fumbled the bag, man. But I have a feeling the NFL hasn't been as transparent as they should be about this. I have a feeling that they probably just rolled out some rules and regulations. And most time, you guys have been around athletes. They don't read, especially when it's a fine line, especially when it's something like this where they feel like they can control. That's the thing about guys. For the most part, I can control this. I can tell you, like, I got it. I got it. In reality, you don't, because his situation turned into a buddy of his betting on his behalf. And you know what he said? Yep. I'll just keep it low.
And that's the problem. You can't get away with it in any aspect, especially right now. We had the Alabama coach with, he had sent somebody up there to make the bet. Now you have this situation. Like, let's not try to skirt around it. Let's just not do it and obey the rules so that you're not then ruining your
career. I mean,
let's be smart.
He's got on the last year on the contract right now and potentially could have gotten paid even more, at least way more than these $25 bets that he was placing or parlays that he was dropping down. And he may not play again. You know what I'm saying? If he does, it's going to be for minimum moving forward, especially what makes him much more different than Pete Rose at this point.
Yeah.
That's true.
When betting on yourself goes wrong.
Yeah.
He's literally betting on himself.
The Isaiah Rodgers story.
Has anyone ever not taken ownership for their actions? Like, I'd be lying like hell. I'd be like, that wasn't me. Prove it. Prove it. I didn't want to bet that. I owed him money for other things.
Well, John Morant, quote unquote, took ownership of his actions and then made the same actions again. And the NBA is like, it's worse than we thought. We're going to wait to that's kind of like when the NBA waits to give a suspension and because they don't want to distract everyone from the finals.
Yeah.
That's like when your mom finds out that you acted up in school, but you don't learn immediately what your punishment is when you have to call home. You have to wait until you get home in order to learn your punishment. Or it's like, we're going to figure out what we're going to do with you in the morning. And it's like, no, just tell me now.
Yeah.
If I'm not watching TV, just go ahead and take it from me. Let the clock start now.
Because why even announce that they are going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
That was just like, a 3-step process? Why do we need this?
So sitting in silence of suspensions and punishment is like the purgatory of that is the worst place you can possibly be.
The worst may be actually knowing you got a butt whipping when in time you come home, right?
Wait till your daddy gets home. Just wait till your daddy gets home.
And you anticipate it so much and then it doesn't happen. Like, that's the actual worst to me because I'm like, it's 8 o'clock at night. Where the bell
When
at?
is this happening? 9:30?
You know how many shirts I put down my pants to cover my butt?
Oh, my goodness.
I never had time.
Where are the bells?
I just closed the eyes.
737-1045. And coming up this morning, Tyler Dunne of GoLongTD.com hits the NFL and Titans headlines with us at 7:20. Sam Monson has high praise for one Titans defender, Pro Football Focus writer who joins us at 8:20. And Ron Slay helps the show lose its roof at 9:20 this morning. Coming up next, though, on the first day of Titans mandatory minicamp, how much do the results matter in minicamp for Ryan Tannehill at the quarterback position? We'll discuss that coming up next here on Hour 1. It's RKW, and it's 104.5 The Zone. Hey, it's Will Bowling. Are you looking to check some items off your summer home to-do list? I think that list got even longer for me after work yesterday. Or maybe you're looking to freshen up your home's look before hosting friends and family for a cookout. The weather has been so nice these past couple of weekends. Well, you need to call Lee Company for help with all of that because available 24/7, 365, the Lee Company home improvement professionals, they've got you covered. From pressure washing your driveway or deck, maybe you've got some drywall repairs you need done, landscape lighting, painting, and more. Lee Company is all you need. You hear me say those words all the time when I talk about them. So contact Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit them online at leecompany.com to schedule your appointment. It's a busy time of year, but there's a lots to do around the house as we continue to host friends and family this summer. Let Lee Company help check those items off your to-do list. 615-567-1000. That's the number again. LeeCompany.com is the website for all your home improvement needs this summer. That's Lee Company, all you need. Tuesday morning on RKW, and it's powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. When trust matters, cut at All Four Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. Professional garage door installation and repair from a locally owned and family-run business. Visit allfourseasonsgarages.com/Nashville. 615-737-1045 with the whole crew here on a Tuesday morning. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, and Robert Walsh, our producer. And joining us on the phone lines, John in the Borough leads us off as we get into the NFL headlines with Isaiah Rodgers and his gambling suspension that is likely upcoming in the NFL. What's going on, John?
What's up, John Michael?
Good morning, everybody. First, y'all were talking about punishments. My mom was never big on physical punishments. She always just kind of got me with, I'm disappointed in you. But one time she decided to wash my mouth out with soap. I said something I wasn't supposed to say. I had a loose tooth, and it was a baby tooth, and she didn't know that. She knocked the tooth out, and as payback for putting me through the horror of washing my mouth out, I played it up. And it was, you knocked out my tooth. I can't believe that. How horrible are you? And she never did it again.
John, do you remember? Because I got my mouth washed out very frequently. Do you remember the type of soap?
No,
I did.
No, it was like bar soap, and I didn't get my mouth washed out very often. I got
well, lucky
my mom's
you.
rule, like my parents were together, but my dad traveled all the time. My mom's rules were don't do things that I'm going to get embarrassed for. Like I could do a lot of things as a kid. I could get away with a lot of stuff, but if my mom was going to be embarrassed, then I was in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like John was an angel.
I was a pretty good kid. I didn't get in too much trouble. Your normal All-American shenanigans. But in any event, calling in about gambling. So some friends and I were talking about sports gambling over the holiday and all the players that are getting in trouble and everything. And kind of the takeaway that I came from it is I don't care if a player gambles. Don't gamble on your own game. Don't gamble on your own team. For example, if Will Levis wants to gamble on the money line only, I'll take just the money line. No spreads, no props. If he wants to bet money line on the Chargers and Chiefs, I don't have a problem with it. But the NFL needs to know about it. So make it up front. Don't make it hidden. Don't have a buddy open up an account for you. Just make it so that there is accountability and knowledge so that things can be tracked, so they can look for trends and say, hey, let's make sure that we're not that nobody's trying to shave or cheat or anything like that.
That's fair.
Hey, Sean. For me, I mean, you have so many big schools where a lot of guys who are college teammates are playing in the NFL now that if somebody from Tennessee who plays for the Titans wants to bet on the Arizona Cardinals, and you get to the point where they're making 5-6-figure bets like a lot of these guys would make, and they've got a lot of money on the line, you think they're not sending a text to their buddy like, hey, I got $20,000 on you today. Then that opens Pandora's box. It can't happen.
Yeah.
It absolutely cannot happen.
Me personally, I'm totally against it.
Totally. I am too.
I love the idea that players can get endorsed through gambling agencies and companies and betting sites and stuff like that. I think that is fair game. It's just like I can be on the Madden cover. We were speaking about that a second ago, right? And still not play Madden. I'm okay with that. When we talk about betting on games, to me, I think you're crossing the line. Like Will said, the connectivity of everybody in the NFL, at least knowing somebody from a player to a coach to a front office personnel. Guys know guys. You know how many times I've reached out to guys that play for the Vols, like, hey, man, y'all going to be Florida this year? Or having that conversation with somebody about beating somebody. Like, it goes from NFL to college. Like, imagine from team to team. Imagine when you know everything about their team, too. That's the other part of it is I know as, you always want to beat the house or beat the betting agency and stuff like that. But sometimes I just know more about a team than possibly the dude that's setting the line does. I know that, look, hey, he's been on the injury list, but he's not really hurt this week. I also know that, look, versus this matchup right here, he beat him 4 times in college, and he still ain't got no better since then. So it's a disadvantage to all the people that don't know how to bet either. You know what I'm saying? Like the expert evaluation of what you're doing. Yes, I know it's counting cards and blackjack is a thing.
Right.
And it's okay until you get caught. Like you can be out. This is kind of the way I look at it then is it's counting cards for NFL players if you do this. On top of the fact you can lose your job. On top of the fact it's just a public embarrassment because as it stands right now, the NFL has sent bow and arrows to everybody publicly that's gotten caught. This is a slippery slope. And Will, like you said, to that point, a lot of guys are new to money. A lot of guys are, look, $50 is a load of money in college. And then you start realizing when you get those first few checks, man, $500 ain't nothing. That $500 bet turns into a $5,000 bet
Quickly.
and then it turns into a $50,000. Like, man, I just need one big hit.
So,
Like it gets slippery.
my biggest thing, though, with all of this is that's fine and dandy. Like, okay, we knew that this was going to muddy the water when they made this legal. But my thing is the NFL players should know, whether they read the fine line or not, they should be told when they come into your
It's inside the building.
Inside the building as rookies, as, even vets, like these are the betting rules. You guys cannot cross the line, else you're going to pay the consequences. And it's been around for a second.
It has.
So why do these guys keep thinking that they can cheat the system or wiggle around it is my big question. Just because that's what you feel like money does at that point when you reach that level? Like,
I'm going to give you two situations right here. One is, you said that, right? How many steroid situations we have? How many failed drug test situations do we have? How many drunk driving? Heck, Marquez Callaway just got suspended from the Cowboys. Antonio Callaway. I'll say it one more time. Antonio Callaway.
Accusations.
False
Accusations.
That was on me right there, okay? Antonio Callaway, not our Vol, Will. Antonio Callaway just got cut from the Cowboys from driving, Kayla.
Right.
On a suspended license.
Sure, which is crazy.
Everybody thinks they're invincible, right? That's one situation, right? So where you say, heck, they're still failing drug tests. They're still failing PED tests, right? Or Adderall is always the go-to one. The second one is this. I don't think they're explaining it enough, Kayla, for guys to understand the ramifications of what they're doing. Like there's a lot of stuff that's behind what's actually happening with these guys.
Of it,
and truthfully, this may be the hard rollout for players too. I do think that's the case. You know what? We told y'all not to do it. We didn't tell you how not to do it or what's going to happen. So because of that, we're going to put everybody that get caught on public display.
Right.
There's
Making
like 8
an example,
guys
you
right
think
now.
of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've honestly buried the lead here, too, because the issue is the sports books are losing money. If players who have insider information are betting on large sums of cash on the NFL,
Right.
that's not in the best interest of the sports books, and sports books are not willing to be in a situation where the deck is stacked against them, because in reality, they're kind of stacking the deck against the public.
They are.
I mean, it's why a money line bet is minus 110 and not plus 100. Because if you go 2 for 4, you're losing money. If you hit 50% of your bets, you're making, 45% of your profit back? That's why money line bets and odds are the way that they are. It's everything involved with gambling is set up for the house to win every time.
Or the way they move the line.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the way they move the line.
So this would be the equivalent of insider trading on Wall Street. That's why players and employees can't bet. They have information the public doesn't have. You put enough of the money, you have a player make a 6-figure bet on one thing that they know behind the record, then the line's going to move in favor of the public in one direction, and then the public is making more money just because of one player having information. So while John is correct that, it's probably harmless on a small scale for every now and then running back in the AFC, making a bet on an NFC game on the other end of the country, it is a very, very, very slippery slope, stacking the deck against people who never have the deck stacked against them.
And quick question, Todd Apple in the FNM bank chat says, if it's illegal to gamble on games, what about betting on fantasy football or prop bets?
That is also illegal.
Also illegal.
I can speak from personal experience on this as the most recently was a college athlete in the building. they go through this with you every quarter, team meetings. And we weren't even a revenue sport.
Mm-hmm.
Like, legitimately, they, just as a college non-revenue athlete, one of the first meetings you have is do not ever put even money in a March Madness bracket pool because that is considered gambling. And we literally, you're done for a year if you do that, would be the thing they would always say. It's like, we can usually give a waiver to the NCAA and petition on your behalf. If you break a rule, if you don't make grades for whatever reason, if something else is going on, if you gamble, it is out of our hands. You are done for a year the first time, and the second time, you're never an athlete again in the NCAA.
So what do we have from the time I graduated to a 6-year, 7-year gap?
This was
09.
fall of
08.
2015, the first meeting of those I ever went through.
And I'm winner of 08 graduation. So about 7 years
Yeah.
that we had in between us. We didn't have that conversation.
Really?
No, did not. About fantasy wasn't a thing then. And of course, it's morphed into a huge industry now, man. And what's so fascinating, Kayla, I do remember having a teammate that was a walk-on.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to play. He did spring with us. Heck, I don't even know if he made it to the season. He may have done one season with us. Had like a 300C on campus, like the new Chrysler's that come out.
Yep.
I was just like, man, what you got going on? Well, he played online poker. And I'm not sure if that was a thing, but he also said this.
And that's legal.
For me,
Yeah.
it's paying for my school.
Wow.
And he was good enough to actually pay for school. That way he was able to come on and walk on the football team through online poker. Now, again, the fantasy stuff has always been a big situation. I know I've been in situations where it's not even a money league. It's about just winning the league. I'd be like, hey, man, what you going to do this game?
Right.
And that's the thing about it, as Will said, the insider trading of it all, players usually give up information quick to their friends. Like, man, we going to run all
I can
over
see
them
that.
this week.
Sure.
And it's just that simple. Look, we going to run all over them this week. How you sure? Man, listen to me. They can't stand a chance. So-and-so got a knee. I know his ankle's messed up.
Yeah.
You didn't watch the last week of the film? Like, man, he didn't play the last quarter. Like, those are the things that players know that fans may miss, or like the betting lines the people that set the line will know, like, okay, they watch it probably the same way we do, but they still don't have the same intel. It's been games where I know guys that have like had friends reach out to them like, hey, prime time, what y'all doing tonight, man? And just simply, guys give up information. Man, we airing it out. And you know it's supposed to be a run first type of game? No. Listen to me. He's playing against that quarterback. Or those are the scenarios too. If you got Josh Allen versus Justin Herbert, bet the passing. Most players know that because the ego of quarterback in Buffalo is bigger than the ego of quarterback in Kansas City, right? Passing is probably going to be premier in those primetime games. What are we running the ball for? This is the opportunity for me to get my shine and outduel him. Like, those are the types of things. Like, listen, man, he trying to outduel Peyton this weekend. Bet it. It's that conversation that kind of happens to where guys just understand certain stuff that's not public knowledge because they've been in those rooms.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing they would tell us to bet on would be cards and horse racing.
Oh.
Because the rule was you can't bet on any sport the NCAA offers.
Okay.
So the NCAA, obviously, poker and horse racing. Like, they're like, if you really want to bet,
okay,
go to a horse race.
Let me ask y'all this. Is it just business on the other side of it for the NFL to be able to have these betting houses, or is it you should just know better? Because the NFL's in bed with them.
There are billions of dollars in it.
There are billions of dollars.
Business.
Follow the money.
Yeah. And it's legal now for 99.99999% of people.
Yeah.
So the 0.001% isn't going to ruin it for the 99.999.
That's 100%. And that's the other thing of it, too. Most guys aren't degenerates like this. Of course, there's a friendly bet they go on. It's mostly the ones I've ever been. It's just college. Like, hey, a standard $50 college game. Like, hey, we have no investment in it. That's your school, my school. We got to have a bet. Like, that's as far as it goes.
friendly wager.
And like you said earlier, should guys know better, Kayla? They should. But those same dudes still fail drug tests.
Yeah.
And what's the percentage of this? 1% of the guys? Heck, probably less than that are doing it.
Less than that. I mean, you're
Way
talking
less
8
than that.
pladers out of, I mean, how many would be in the Players Association right now?
How many? 1,600.
There you go.
1,600. Kyle Cadwell said this, and it's very true, man, in the F&M Bank chat. The NFL is giving gamblers the Cersei treatment. Shame. Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cersei.
Cersei.
Ring the bell in the
Yeah.
streets.
Ring the bell in the streets, man. I don't know what's going to change from it. I just know I've just heard the NFL just told guys not to do it. And it's not specifically broken down to where they've had guys sit down. And maybe it changes going into training camp because to me, it's a big black eye to the NFL to have this going on. You can't have guys being exploited like this. These dudes are in the last years of their contracts, or as far as Jameson Williams go, in Detroit, he's just now starting his career.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, he's just introduced.
Just introduced.
It's a worldwide issue, too. There's a big scandal in soccer in England with this right now, too.
Is it too?
With players?
A player that bet on 15 of his own games when he was hurt, and he bet on his team to lose like 15 times.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Now that's
because
bad.
he was out?
Yeah.
That's bad.
Every game he played, he bet on them to win, and every game he didn't play, he bet on them to lose. It's like about narcissism.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Ivan Toney's the guy's name.
I wonder what's the win-losses
Crazy.
of those bets, too.
But they were actually pretty good this year.
Ah,
Because he was hurt for most of the season and then suspended. So
Is that
There you go.
worse, betting on your own team to lose?
yeah,
yes.
that's pretty bad.
That is bad.
It's pretty bad.
And that's what Pete Rose gets a pass. Oh, I never bet on my team.
He doesn't get a pass. He's banned from baseball forever.
Yeah, I
But
know.
that's what
That's
he
not gonna
thinks would
change.
give him a
That,
pass.
and
Right.
that's what I'm saying. That's what he's thinking. Gives him a pass.
You know my feeling on that.
Yeah, I know. I just
Same with my feeling on Barry Bonds, but that's on the Mount Rushmore of annoying sports talk radio topics. We've already talked about that.
I mean, either way. Yeah, we put that in a bucket. We'll rehash that one.
Coming up next, a free agent signing becomes official now for the Tennessee Titans. A player who had been working under the assumption of a move that was finally officially made yesterday. When we come back on Ramon, Kale, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
Interest rates may be high everywhere else, but now at Genesis Diamonds, you can get zero interest on any purchase. That's right, 5 years, zero interest financing with nothing down. Beautiful eternity bands. They have 1 carat diamond stud, earrings, and more, starting out at only $50 a month. 0.0 financing for 5 years. Best thing you can do. Imagine that $6,000 designer ring is $100 a month. Genesis will even finance the sales tax. And interest rate relief is just another way that Genesis is always looking out for their customers. Pre-owned Rolex watches are included also, as are Genesis name brand designers. So you can get the ring of her dreams at a monthly payment you never dreamed possible. It's a great time to celebrate that anniversary with the new center stone or a spectacular diamond tennis bracelet or eternity band. Get the crazy low Genesis value price and then spread your payments over 5 whole years without a dime in interest. Now through July 1st only, and only at Genesis Diamonds.
Continuing hour one on your Tuesday morning here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, where Titans restricted free agent T.R. Tarts went through the procedure of signing his second-round tender for $4.3 million yesterday. It's according to his agents, Drew Rosenhaus, Ryan Matha, confirming that to Adam Schefter, and Pop-Tart
Pop-Tart.
back at the front of the Titans
Tart.
defensive line.
Yeah.
What kind of Pop-Tart would T.R. Tart be?
Ooh.
Classic. Or chocolate chip.
He'd
Brown
be the
sugar,
chocolate.
cinnamon?
I ain't like that one.
You don't like brown sugar cinnamon Pop-Tarts?
I don't like it either. It's a little dry.
What?
It is a little dry.
Who are the people that I work with? Robert.
No, I'm with you.
dry.
Brown sugar is the way to go.
Thank
but,
you.
But also,
Oh.
aren't all Pop-Tarts dry? Like, isn't that the whole thing? Or any of them juicy?
Okay, here's the thing. I don't know why I think the one with the sprinkly frosting, they have a little more
Yeah, they got a little bit more
a little more
filling
to
to
it.
it. Yeah.
I could see
than just the plain one. You know, like the plain brown.
I could see both of you being committed later today because of your heinous takes against Pop-Tarts.
You know,
Committed to what?
I'm so
An
glad.
insane asylum of the Pop-Tart variety.
Robert is going to be an advocate
Uh-oh.
for me on this show,
No.
and you all prepare to be sick of me because Robert and I are close enough
Robert,
in age.
you're digging yourself in a
We're
hole
in the
here.
same generation. No, I don't know.
Oh,
All right,
I
Gatorade
finally
flavor.
have an advocate.
What's Gatorade flavor?
what's the
There's
best?
there's
The best.
absolutely a
Aren't they
right
blue?
answer.
It's okay. The wild cherry one is numero uno.
Is that the
Wild
white?
cherry?
The
Is
white,
that-
which one? White ice? Which one
Oh,
is it?
no.
Arctic
White
Ice.
is
The white
terrible.
The white
the
one
white
is
one is-
phenomenal.
What?
The white one?
It's
I do
lemon
like that.
lime, y'all. It is
Yeah.
lemon lime.
No.
Lemon lime.
Lemon lime is second.
Oh, what you
No.
got?
No,
Blue?
no.
Glacier Freeze, the light blue.
Yeah,
With-
that's
with
my
the-
favorite.
With the
Glacier
nipple
Blue.
top bottle where you can like squeeze it on the run.
Y'all are killing me.
Glacier Blue is my favorite.
The glacial ice is number one.
Is that
Caleb.
the white one?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's the
that's
white
good.
one.
White
That's
is
number one.
wolf.
No, and then second on that list is orange. That's the one Michael Jordan had on the commercials, man.
I'll say orange is second, actually. I amend my answer.
Yeah.
Lemon lime is third.
Orange is for when you're sick.
Lemon lime is four.
Everyone knows
Lemon
the
lime.
largest healing properties come from orange.
Oh my God.
You know the biggest secret is
What?
in a can.
And the can is
That
by
is
far
absolutely
the
Man,
accurate.
Fire
that is
one.
good.
You know ball.
Red is number 3 though.
Red's good.
Yeah.
Where y'all at on this, man? I can't believe we're
Glacier Freeze. I told you where I'm at.
Glacier
Yeah,
Freeze.
I
That's
like-
the light blue one.
Yeah. And I do like the one you like, Ramon, too.
Yeah, the white, the white one. There's also the light purple one.
I
is
like
really
that one,
good
too.
The light purple one
Oh,
hits.
I'm out on that.
You out on the light purple
The
Do
one?
kids that
like
like the
grape.
light purple are the ones that ate their boogers in the back of class.
There's a parking lot outside.
Are you a
Man,
booger eater?
We're gonna get busy, man. You gonna get busy
Come
in
on,
the
man, I
parking
got
lot.
work to do back here.
We gotta
you
get
sniff
busy in the
glue?
parking lot, huh? No,
Do you sniff Elmer's glue?
no. All right, so my list though is the white one, orange, and then red, and purples after that.
Okay.
You're going white first.
Yes,
That's crazy.
the white one is fire
I'm
flames.
I think it's good, too.
What's yours again, Will?
Light blue 1, orange 2, and yellow 3.
No red in there?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, red's good. I like most flavors.
Light blue, the white one, and then the light purple.
Okay.
And then red.
Are you ready for me to really ruffle some feathers?
Please.
I dare
That's
you.
the best kind of Gatorade. The best kind of Powerade, sour melon.
Yeah, you've said this before.
I haven't
Green.
had it.
I've not had it.
Green Powerade is the best kind of Powerade. And anyone who knew me in middle school or high school agrees with this because our entire group, like our entire school, who like ran, well, I don't know. I guess really just our team. I've got like 10 friends who we were like the only people buying sour melon Powerade literally
Yeah.
in the United States of America.
I never even
But
seen
I
it.
will
I know,
swear
I
by
haven't
it
either.
forever. It is so good.
And it's still out there.
Second best for a Powerade was strawberry lemonade. Back when they had strawberry lemonade Powerade.
Really?
Oh, they had
That's
that?
what I would- when I
never drank
played-
Powerade.
When I played
Me
baseball,
either.
I would take a big, like the court size Powerades, and I'd have a quart of Powerades just sitting in the dugout. And I would have one quart for every strikeout that I had per at bat.
Per at bat.
So in
Wow.
other words, I would have what, like that's
gallon?
32 ounces for the amount of hits that I got over my lifetime.
Man.
Yeah.
I love how we got on this because of Pop-Tart.
Yeah,
TR
literally.
Tart. He
Because
brings up
TR.
so many fun conversations.
He does, but congrats to him for that tender, man. Big time. But back to the real topic at hand here. Gatorade, man. By the way, was Powerade sweeter? I feel like it was just a little bit
I
sweeter.
always thought Gatorade was
Maybe
sweet.
it was.
You always thought Gatorade was sweet? I always got like a sweeter taste out of Powerade, man. By the way, all of it's not as great as they made it out to be for you.
No.
Let's go to Gator Mike before we go into our number 2. What up, Gator Mike?
What's up, Gator Mike?
All right, Ramon, I'm going to blow your minds with the Pop-Tart thing. You ready?
I'm here for it.
So I had a guy tell me about 4 years ago, and my kids will swear by it, there's 4 that you need to get. 2 of them are kind of hard to find, but you freeze them and eat them straight out of the freezer. You don't warm them up because it makes the inside nice and chewy.
Ooh.
You ready?
Oh.
Listen, the strawberry milkshake, if you can find it, is the numero uno. It'll blow your mind. The chocolate chip cookie dough, if you can find that one. The regular hot fudge sundae, and then the cookies and cream. Any of those, I'm telling you, put them in your freezer. You take them straight out of the freezer. They aren't going to be hard. Like a lot of my friends will be like, dude, it's going to be hard and crunchy. And I'm like, no, it makes that stuff inside nice and chewy and gooey. Dude, it'll blow your mind. The strawberry milkshake, if you can find it, put it in the freezer, right out of the freezer. You're golden. Life changer.
Interesting.
That actually, I'm not going to lie, that sounds
Thank you, Gator
good.
Mike.
With all 4 of those flavors.
Appreciate
It
the
could
call.
be like a dessert.
Yeah, it
After
could
dinner
be.
dessert.
I never even heard of the strawberry milkshake.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I was unfamiliar with that as well.
That I know Pop-Tart. There's 2 brands that do crazy stuff. Pop-Tarts and Kit Kats. Like they got crazy
Kit Kats is
style.
out of control at this
Yeah,
point.
they got
They need to
crazy
slow it down.
variations.
They
You got to
need to-
throw Ruffles in there too. Chips have been going crazy
Yes,
lately.
chips are crazy too.
It's like, all of a sudden, it's like, you want to be Canadian? So we're already talking about the Canadians earlier. Ketchup flavored chips. I'm
Yeah,
like, no,
that's-
thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah,
Trash.
Big Chip is out of control.
We need
Big
somebody
Chip has run amok.
to figure out
Wait,
what they're
Big
after.
Chip?
No, just Big Chip.
Big Chip. You know, like
the big
big,
chip companies.
well,
you know?
Oh, big chip companies.
Just like,
Like
Lay's,
big tobacco.
Fritos.
Doritos
I'm like, whoa,
are
is
popping
Big
off
Chip-
too, man.
I
Big
will
Chip a
vote
brand
for
I
the
haven't
mayor.
done?
I will vote for the mayor who brings Big Chip back down to earth. 615-737-1045. The important issues this morning on our vote, Kayla and Will. We're up next in hour 2. Tyler Dunne joins us. And we give a disclaimer about Ryan Tannehill and Titans quarterbacks at mandatory minicamps when we come back on 1045 The Zone.
It's 7 o'clock on the dot. What's going on? Actually, it's 7:01, but who's counting? From the Superbook.com Sports Desk, I'm Robert Walsh. Titans mandatory minicamp begins today, and it's running through Thursday. Eager to see whether Kevin Byard attends, but one Titan who will be in attendance is Tier Tart. He signed his second-round tender worth $4.3 million yesterday, just in time for today's minicamp. He signed a waiver earlier in the offseason to allow him to practice with the Titans, but in order to be at minicamp, he needed to sign his tender, which he did. Glad Tier Tart's in town. NFL is probing the Colts cornerback Isaiah Rodgers for possible betting. Rodgers took to Instagram to provide a statement saying, "I made an error in judgment, and I'm going to work hard to make sure that those mistakes are rectified through this process." And in the NHL, Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals was a rout for the Golden Knights as the team Will Bowling irrationally hates dominated the team Ramon Foster didn't believe existed. The Golden Knights won 7-2 and extend their lead to 2 games. The Golden Knights are 2 wins away from their first Stanley Cup as the series shifts to Florida. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5. The Zone.
Hour number 2 on your Tuesday morning commute. We are Ramon, Kayla, and Will. And RKW is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Coming up in 15 minutes, Tyler Dunne of GoLongTD.com hits the NFL headlines and tells you how you can have a private conversation with a Titans legend. Coming up on Friday night. Cool details on a Q&A with former Oiler Warren Moon.
Hey.
Should be pretty cool. 615-737-1045 is the number with Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson. Robert Walsh behind the glass. My name is Will Bowling. Titans mandatory minicamp is here, and how much should we care about what Ryan Tannehill does this week?
I'm going to go out and say I think we should care a good bit, Will. Everybody's in the building. You get full camp structure without the pads. Hopefully everybody is in the building, so it would be, hey, all rookies, all vets versus all rookies, all vets. So we'll get an opportunity to hear how the young guys did. Tajay Spears being one of those guys. Colton Dowell being one of those guys. How will Chig look against Byard if he lines up? I might say that again just so we can see what happens today. See what Chig look like against Byard today. He is the topic of conversation today, and I think it's idiotic not to actually make that the focus.
Yeah, that's the focus. I'm not as focused in on Ryan Tannehill this week just for the sheer fact that he showed up for OTAs. We've kind of been through this storyline the last couple of weeks, and then they're going to go back for OTAs next week before they're kind of let go for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think because Ryan has shown he's put in the work, he looks good, he's built that connection with Traylon early on. I'm not so much focused on him in mini camp, although we will always be keeping an eye on the quarterbacks. There's no doubt about that. But I think it's more so what's going on with the backup position and how does that continue to unfold, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just think Ryan Tannehill has already shown us he's going to be the starter this season unless something crazy happens. I'm more so interested in what's going to go on with the secondary in terms of Christian Fulton returning possibly this week. I think he's in Nashville. Like you said, Kevin Byard, is he going to be here or is that going to continue to be a storyline? I think those are the things I'm looking at. And then just the progression of the offensive line. How are they coming together? How do they continue to mesh? So I'm not as worried about Ryan.
But a lot of things don't change in as far as minicamp to OTA, except it's longer days. So I want to see how that focus of it.
Sure.
Also, the script gets a little bit longer because of the extra time. So I do kind of want to hear how he's operating today. If they're throwing the ball a little bit more, what does it look like? It's been reported he's using his legs a little bit more. Also, what does that look like with everybody there? And it just coaches find a way to hype up minicamp too.
Yeah.
So how does he handle that and lead that? This is going to be fascinating. All hands on deck this week, whether they're practicing or not. Like, it's show and prove until camp, really.
And I think the other thing you just look at overall for the offense is how is the new verbiage coming along? How are they picking this up now that things are going to pick up a little bit more in mini camp? Because that was one thing Ryan Tannehill did say, that they are learning some new lingo. They are kind of getting familiar with some of the stuff that Tim Kelly is incorporating. So how does that continue to develop? I'll be watching that.
Yep.
Attendance and availability are the two things I care about in mandatory minicamp. Performance doesn't move the needle for me at all. Not right now.
Okay.
I think call me when it's training camp when it comes to Tannehill, Levis, and Malik. And maybe for Levis and Malik, you have different circumstances for all three of those quarterbacks because clock's ticking on Malik Willis every chance that he gets. He can't afford to have a bad day at this point. And his future may be written even if he has the best practices ever over the next week. But for me, I don't think there's much you can tell about offensive and defensive lines when you're not full go and it's just mini camp. Even in training camp. I mean, for that one, call me when it's preseason games.
Yeah.
And you can be at full speed and full contact. And even in that sense, you're not fully going at it in preseason games like you will in actual football games either. So for me, I think the procedural elements of practice are what's most important this time of year. Where are guys playing? Are they available? And are they even in the building? That's what I want to know. And so when it comes to this offensive line, how much is Andre Dillard working at left guard versus left tackle?
Yep.
How much is Peter Skronsky working at left guard versus left tackle? Is Daniel Brunskill filling in for Aaron Brewer at center? Is he predominantly playing guard? Is Nicholas Petit-Frere simply playing on the right side of the offensive line? Do they want to see him at left tackle? I think those are all the questions you have to ask at this point of the conversation when you don't have full contact and you don't have everything fully installed the way I imagine it will be in training camp.
But I guess that's why I do say to myself, I kind of want to know what it looks like, because in today's game of 7-on-7 camps and throwing the ball through the air and the Titans' lack of actually doing that as often as other teams, like, I want to know what it's going to look like in this context. Like, we haven't had much of a conversation about Ryan Tannehill throwing picks, being picked off, being in that scenario he was immediately after the three interceptions a couple of years ago, right? We hadn't had that conversation. So I still like to have that be the case. Like, don't if he's been much cleaner this year, then I like to know that too. Let's not report on Tannehill when it's just all interception, because that did kind of bleed over into the season too.
And I think for the availability, we're definitely going to find some more out this week in terms of some of these guys coming back. But there's still going to be those guys that might not be out there, like Harold Landry, like Caleb Farley, where I think we're just not going to see that probably till training camp, unfortunately. And those are two players we'd like to see. Like, how do they look?
Yeah.
You know, are they going to be ready because of the injuries that they're coming off of, especially Harold, you guys, because Titans fans are hoping that he is going to be a key part back on that line next year, or this season, excuse me. But again, let's be realistic. He might not be that from the get-go.
Yeah, that's so very true, Kayla. I wonder how close is he?
I don't know.
Coaches
I know he's in
haven't
the building.
Yeah, they haven't given an update on his status.
Not really. Maybe I'll try to get there today and just kind of see with this winding down over the next couple of weeks.
I could probably see Vrabel's answer to you. You ready? He's in the building.
He's in the building.
I got a feeling that's all he will say about Harold, because Vrabel doesn't report on stuff that he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
And I think he's always made that evident.
Lots of NFL discussion today. Coming up with Tyler Dunne of GoLongTD.com. Sam Monson, we mentioned, had a leaderboard of top corners in the NFL, and a Titan was represented in the top 10 of that in the AFC. Sam will join us at 8:20, and Ron Slay in hour 4 this morning. We also keep an eye on the headlines out of the college baseball tournament, because at 9 o'clock we learn where Tennessee's headed to the Super Regional.
Yep.
9 a.m. this morning when that announcement will be made officially by the NCAA. It could go either way.
Curious on that, because Southern Miss came back to win last night.
They did.
Yeah. They could be the host team.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yep.
that's tough.
Again,
Tough.
The fact that the NCAA tournament doesn't just seed every team and avoid
agree.
gray area like
I
this
agree.
is ridiculous.
Especially now, we're seeing more and more of these types of upsets on, kind of the regional
big teams.
turfs.
Yeah.
Home turfs.
Who else? Virginia ended up losing theirs too, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
Clemson.
Virginia won.
They did
Virginia's-
come back.
Yeah.
Auburn, Clemson.
Auburn went 0-2.
Clemson.
Yeah.
Oh wow, Vandy.
Oklahoma
Arkansas?
State.
Arkansas?
Yeah.
Some of the most obnoxious fans in sports are still waiting for that national championship over there.
Yeah.
Arkansas
I believe
dropped it?
Stanford too, right? Or did Stanford make it? I can't. Yeah. There's a handful.
Man. That's tough.
Yeah.
Couldn't be my team.
Yeah.
I don't even
Well, you
dislike.
didn't host this year.
I don't
but
dislike
you
Arkansas.
know.
It
We
doesn't
did
matter.
host. Yeah.
I don't mind Arkansas fans. I do mind Arkansas baseball fans
Why is that?
because they're some of the most sensitive people on Twitter.com.
They've won though. So
Why
gotta
are you
kinda
on
give 'em
Arkansas
that.
Twitter for
Arkansas hadn't
baseball?
won. World
No, they
Series?
come to your Twitter. They
Do
find
they?
you. Oh yeah.
Jeez.
Tennessee would lose like a midweek game to Boston College, and there'd be Arkansas fans responding in the Twitter. Like, who asked for you?
I never get Arkansas on my timeline.
Oh no, yeah.
I don't know if I've ever gotten them.
I've
I've
either.
even seen Vanderbilt fans talking about this of like Arkansas. Like I've united with other fan bases. It's like the rest of us are with Georgia football fans.
Yeah.
That's like they're like the Georgia football fans of baseball. Really? They've never won a national title.
Oh wow.
They dropped a foul ball pop up. What, 10 years ago?
Which is, yeah.
Hadn't come back from it.
I'm
since.
bringing up some bad memories for
No,
Arkansas
if
fans.
they're
listening.
like
I don't
that,
hate
Will,
all
let
of
them
you.
have it. Let them have it, Will. I'm back down now. I got your back, man.
They took an L.
Yeah, they took an L.
I mean, their coach is the one that's talked about Tony Vitello not playing the game the right way.
Oh.
I
Well,
wonder if TCU is playing the game the right way.
It was fascinating to hear people say they enjoy the way the game is actually kind of hashed out a little bit with the Vols. It's funny. I think
it
they
just-
tamed
It
it
depends
this year,
on
though,
the person and the baseball fan. I don't think you can put anyone in a corner in that. It's
Yeah.
just like some people like it, some people don't.
too. Yeah.
Some people
fair.
like it traditional, some people like a little bit more lively and new age.
Man, throw some 30s on the truck. You feel me?
You know?
30-inch rims on the truck, right?
Stanford did win, by the way.
Okay, so sorry,
We were-
Stanford held it down in their regional.
We were one
sorry,
A&M
Pac-12.
win away from an A&M Texas super regional. And I'm really sad that didn't happen. TBH. Anyway, coming up next,
He
Tyler
likes
Dunne joins
Texas.
us. We'll get back to the NFL headlines with him and tell you about a cool event he's got coming up with former Oilers quarterback Warren Moon, who you can hang out with as a part of his website. Great stuff from Tyler Dunne, as always. Coming up next as we continue hour number 2 on Ramon, Kayla, and Will.
It's Ramon and Kayla for Window Nation, and you know it's coming. We talked about it this morning. The heat, the humidity, the high energy bills forcing your AC into overdrive. It's time to beat the heat with Window Nation's summer sale, where you can save thousands today with no money down. Yes, no payments and no interest for 2 full years. Plus, Window Nation will give you 2 free windows with every 2 you buy. Protect and increase the value of your home today, and call 866-90Nation or go online to windownation.com. Kayla?
Yeah, well, like Ramon said, it's going to be hot this whole entire week and really for the rest of the summer. And you're going to pump up that AC. You can save up to 30% on your energy bills by just fixing up those windows with Window Nation. And, also you might wonder if, we're telling you this, maybe you don't believe us, you should. But if you don't, guess what? They've installed over 200,000 windows last year. That's 40 times more the average window company, 96% of them requiring no follow-up service. Now, over 10,000 online positive reviews. That should tell you enough to save and invest in your windows today, trusted by over 100,000 homeowners. Call 866-90Nation or just go to windownation.com and tell them Kayla and Ramon sent you.
Tuesday mornings, RKW is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone as 9 teams begin mandatory minicamp this week, including the Tennessee Titans today. And joining us to talk about that and much more around the National Football League, we're joined now on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline by our good friend Tyler Dunne of GoLongTD.com. What's up, Tyler? How are you?
What's going on, gang? Good to be back. Actually, driving to Detroit right now, so getting a little Lions action in, and yeah, hopefully we'll work those Titans in when training camp's around the corner soon.
Nice.
But yeah, there's a lot of hype around these Lions for a change, huh?
Oh, we've been talking about them, Ty.
I love it. Yeah, it's I think like the God, when you got Dan Campbell as your head coach, and we all remember every soundbite, every press conference, it kind of starts there. But I mean, this roster is just kind of taken on his personality in every way with the way they ended the season, and it's really strange to be this excited about a franchise that has one playoff win since the 50s. But I think it's real. I think it's justified.
Well, let us know if all the kneecaps are still intact by the time you leave there, Tyler. You'll have to keep us updated on that. Want to start, though, with a cool event you've got coming up Friday night with a Titans legend. I say Titans legend because Warren Moon is one of these former Houston Oilers who have kind of claimed the Tennessee Titans as their own as well, even despite the move away from Houston. Tell the people how they can be a part of this awesome VIP event you've got going on.
Oh, man, I really appreciate the opportunity there. So at Go Long, I try to do these, God, it's been 2.5, 3 years, like happy hours with current players, former players around the NFL. We get a guy on a Zoom, and if you're a VIP subscriber, you can hop on the Zoom and ask these guys anything you want. So Isaiah McKenzie was on last. I think folks might have caught his comments about, hey, if we would have got those Bengals in the Dome, it would have been a different story. You never know what players are going to say. I mean, Jamal Lewis, Ryan Leaf, Steve Tasker, Stevie Johnson, Eric Wood. There's been a lot of fun players. Actually, Rob Johnson was on earlier this offseason. We talked all about the Music City Miracle.
Nice.
So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, definitely can't wait to get Warren on. Any chance I have to call him if I'm working on a quarterback story, I just call him up because he watches the game so closely, and he's kind of one of those legends we probably don't talk about nearly enough in his own right. So if you want to join, GoLongTD.com, subscribe, VIP, and we'd love to have you.
Absolutely. And Titans fans are obsessed with the Oilers uniforms right now with the throwback jerseys coming back and the Titans going that direction, we think, this upcoming season. And what better way to celebrate the Oilers' history than by talking with Warren Moon, for sure. Well, Tyler, here in Tennessee, we're talking about Ryan Tannehill and the Will Levis quarterback situation here. And we just asked the question here in our previous segment, how badly does Ryan Tannehill need a good minicamp and just a good offseason in general? And so I'll kind of ask you, when does the clock start for him to just be under a little bit of pressure with Will Levis now brought in to join that quarterback room?
I think Ryan Tannehill's in the driver's seat here, right? I mean, if he's going to start, and if he plays well through training camp, through the exhibition snaps, whatever he gets there, but really into September, it's his job, and you know what you have. You've seen it. I mean, he's had winning streaks of his own. He was the highest rated passer in the NFL for about a season and a half when he first got there. Mm-hmm. So if he can kind of tap into that, there's no need at all to play Will Levis. I mean, it's all up to Tannehill, and they're kind of one of those teams. I used to think that this was kind of directionless when you have good players, yet you're looking to the future. But I think it is so important to maintain that competitive environment for teams. You can't just tear down a team and expect to get a high pick and build it back up. Like, the building matters. I mean, losing breeds losing. And you saw it in Cleveland a few years ago when they go, 1-31, and they're thinking this is the analytic approach that you need. It's not like football is just different. The locker room matters. Winning matters. So I do love what the Titans are doing and not completely tearing this thing down, because if Tannehill wins some games and you stay competitive in the AFC South, there are worse places to be. I think that's important.
So, Ty, this is very interesting because you've seen and reported on this type of situation before. Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, right? He had a guy drafted after him where they probably could have used other weapons, and he said, watch me bury this guy. And 4 years later, we're just not getting to see him. The Titans did the similar thing with getting Will Levis. Do you see this situation again? Because you said yourself, Tannehill's in the driving position right now, driver's seat.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if he's the quarterback for the next 3 years and Levis has to wait that long.
Okay.
Because you did start to see, I think last season there was a little bit of decline in the starting quarterback, obviously. So you had to bring in somebody, competition with to some degree, because if they do start, on the flip side, if you start 1-5 and clearly you are going to have to tear this thing down. Yeah, I mean, if the backup is ready, if Will Levis is showing you something in practice, just play him. But you have that flexibility, I think, to kind of go either direction, which more teams really should do. Green Bay kind of did it to the team where you've got an Aaron Rodgers who is still in his prime, still has Devontae Adams. You're still going to get some good seasons out of him. Draft a quarterback with zero intention to play him anytime soon. Like, more teams should do that, really. I don't get it. Wait until you absolutely need a quarterback. Take a quarterback. Granted, feelings are going to get hurt. I'm sure Ryan Tannehill doesn't love the fact that the Titans just drafted quarterbacks in back-to-back seasons.
Right. Just
like Aaron Rodgers is pouring himself tequila the night that they draft Jordan Love. But that's what the good teams do. Like, they take quarterbacks when you don't necessarily absolutely have to have one, and then you can kind of ease him into action. Because how many times do you see a team, a GM, a head coach, they draft a quarterback in the first round, and they all say draft night, we don't want this guy to play anytime soon. Like, we're going to wait. He's going to sit a year. And then all of a sudden he's thrown into action a couple games into the season. So to have a good, competent starter and a rookie quarterback behind him is a good position to be in, I think, for the long-term health of your team, let alone the fact that, I mean, you got the best draft and to somebody that was getting talked about as a top 10 pick. You got the best of both worlds if you're the Titans.
Yeah. Also that, too, going from one quarterback to another. You have an article on your website, Go Long TD, and you talk about a lesson from Seattle Seahawks rapid turnaround. I think people hate the word rebuild, restructure, revamp, all the re's you want to call it, right? Rewind, everything. But Seattle did it the right way, you're saying. What is the proper way for a team if they do decide, for the Titans, if they do decide to move on from Ryan Tannehill after this year?
Man, there's no hard and true path for this all. There really isn't, because I mean, we got to stop short of praising the Packers to the high heavens, because they really should have traded Aaron Rodgers the previous two off seasons and done exactly what Seattle did to get what? They could have gotten 4 first-round picks, Patrick Surtain, anything they want. And they didn't do it because they didn't have the guts at that point to do it and to really bite the bullet until it was a little too late. I guess to get anything you can for him at this point was smart. I think the Titans are in a good position where, okay, if you have to move on after this season, if Tannehill's decline continues to the point where it is time to play a different player, you at least have a full body of work on Will Levis. I don't know what direction it's going to go. I can't pretend to know if he's going to be a good NFL starter or not. But it seems like the scouts see a little hope in him, and to get a guy in the second round, at the top of the second round, he's got a shot. It sounds like the reasons that he did fall might not really even be related to his game, if you're to believe some of the anonymous scouts that we had at our own site. I mean, he walked into some of these meetings, and some teams were a little turned off, where you can look at that as a positive. He's confident. He's cocky. I mean, that can go any direction, right?
Yeah.
Like Zach Wilson, when he was drafted, I can remember Daniel Jeremiah, I think it was Daniel Jeremiah at NFL Network, immediately praising him for his cockiness and said that the Jets loved that about him. Well, that came back to bite him, yet it seems to work for some of the other best players in the game. I think Joe Burrow has a little bit of that moxie. So we'll see. I mean, but that's the beauty of it. He doesn't have to play anytime soon. Doesn't have to start anytime soon. You're going to see how he works day in and day out behind the scenes. If he's the first person to show up and he's pouring himself into the game plan, even though he's not starting that week, that's going to tell you a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Because I think that teams are going to know right away what kind of football character you have.
Yeah, and sometimes that cockiness, it works with the moms for Zach, but does not always work for the football team. So maybe he learned a lesson there. So, Ty, we were talking about the Lions, and we brought up this topic a few weeks ago, what the Lions are doing in terms of how they're building their team is similar to kind of what we see now with Rand Carthon joining on as the GM and Mike Vrabel together. They're collaborating. That word's been used a lot. They're taking guys that they really do feel like will fit, and maybe guys who haven't gotten the ultimate chance yet to be a starter, and they're kind of putting them in these positions here to primarily be successful. We feel like that's kind of happened in Detroit a little too. Do you feel like the similarity between these two and what maybe the Titans have done in the offseason can be comparable to that?
Definitely. I mean, Dan Campbell was laughed at, right?
Yeah.
Because early on at his press conference, I mean, we are joking about them biting the kneecaps, and I think a lot of the a lot of the modern day sports writers, sports analysts that swim in analytics and numbers and forget that football is a game played by human beings that bash into each other, 70 times on one side of the ball in a game. Like, it's not baseball. You can't look at the sport through that prism, and I think that's what's actually encouraging, and you're seeing it now with the Lions. Taken 3 years, but they have meticulously found exactly the players that they want under Dan Campbell. They started on the offensive line. They drafted Penei Sewell, who was knocking kids out and sending them to the hospital the first time he played football in this country. I mean, I sat down with him last year. I mean, what a dude. He's going to be a stud. He is a stud. But they kind of started from the inside out and got exactly the kind of personalities that they wanted. Fast forward to this offseason, I mean, people were kind of laughing at Rand Carthon at his press conference at the Combine. Saying, you can't win that way. What are you talking about, smash mouth football? And he was mocked by the same sort of people. And I saw that comment. I'm like, that's a good sign. I mean, he gets it. Football isn't played on a spreadsheet. It's played on the field. And however you go about getting those players, like you kind of pointed out, maybe it's working the Kmart bin of free agency, getting a guy on a minimum deal, but you know how he's wired, and maybe he works his way into a big deal. The Lions have a few of those players. It's how you draft and what you're hearing in those meetings, you're hearing on campus. It's really kind of rolling up your sleeves and getting down and dirty and finding the right kind of guys. I mean, Ramon saw it year in and year out with the Steelers. I mean, that's everything Tomlin's done since day one, is finding a specific kind of player that works in our locker room, and it's no coincidence that the Steelers never have a losing season because they get the right kind of guy. I mean, those practices you guys had, I love talking to Vince Williams about it a couple of years ago. I mean, it's not normal compared to other training camps, other practices you'd hit, and you need a certain kind of temperament. So every team's different. I think the Titans are, obviously at chapter 1 here, but I loved what he said.
Yeah.
Real quick, just in the AFC South in general, Jacksonville, clearly the team that everybody's talking about with their surge at the end of the season. But just how much pressure does now Trevor Lawrence have to kind of remain and continue to keep growing to be that guy? Because they're getting the high praise early on.
They are. I think that's justified, too. It's similar to Detroit. They got hot at the right time. They figured out who they were on offense under Doug Peterson, Press Taylor, and Trevor Lawrence just turned that corner. I think it took September, October, most of November to get that Urban Meyer stench off of you. Like, Urban inherits this transcendent, can't-miss quarterback. I mean, we've been talking about Trevor Lawrence forever, but he was such a terrible head coach and a terrible human being, it sure seems, day to day, that it affected like the gift that you had at quarterback. So I think it just took a while for him to work out those bad habits that he might have gotten as a rookie with a Super Bowl winning coach and a hell of an offensive coordinator in Press Taylor. And now that you throw Calvin Ridley into the mix with Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne, they're the toast of the division. I think that they realistically could compete for a Super Bowl. That's how they're talking. I was just down there a couple weeks ago, and I mean, they're using those words unapologetically. They think they can compete for a Super Bowl, and we'll see how that defense comes together. But they gave the Chiefs a pretty good game at Arrowhead. They did have one of the best playoff comebacks in NFL history. I don't think it's that crazy. I mean, here we are talking about the Lions and the Jags as contenders, and it seems taboo, but it's realistic.
Really is crazy to think we're in a world where the center of the NFL universe could be Central Florida. That's for sure. Tyler Dunne has been our guest this morning on Ramon, Kalen, Will at Ty Dunne, Dunne, where you can find him on Twitter. Tyler, we appreciate the time as always, man. Thanks so much.
Hey, appreciate you guys having me. You're the best. Thanks so much.
No doubt, Ty. Thanks.
There he is, Tyler Dunne with us. And again, check out that VIP Zoom and Q&A with Warren Moon coming up Friday, 5 p.m. Central. That's cool stuff.
Yeah, it is.
He's
man.
so
That's
great.
really cool.
Ty's awesome.
And get those type of draws. Ty also had a big article last summer about Jeff, too.
Yeah.
Going into camp is really good. It was in depth I learned a lot about Jeff through his writing. So, like Ty.
Coming up next, installment number 2 in getting to know the new man behind the glass. An injury story courtesy of Robert Walsh. Can either Ramon or Kayla get on the board and score a point today? You've got 3 days left. Robert will not be here Friday. So, big day
True.
for Ramon and Kayla. They'll put their game faces on and play some Robert Walsh trivia. Coming up next on 104.5 The Zone.
It's Ramon Foss for myPhDWeightLoss.com. I actually have my breakfast queued up. I'm going to have that in a minute because guess what? They will craft a schedule and plan specifically for you. And I know you guys have been hearing or seeing on social media everybody talking about losing weight before the summer. Even I've been talking about it. But guess what? It's never too late to start your journey. Look, I wanted to be ready for the summertime. Some people want to be ready for holiday season. It doesn't matter where you are, how old you are, how much you want to lose or not. My PhD Weight Loss has what you need, and I'm here to tell you it works. On average, most male clients lose between 3 to 5 pounds a week, and most female clients lose between 2 to 3 pounds a week. If you follow the plan, they will work with you. If you're not where you want to be exclusively, well, guess what? They will continue to coach you through. My coach, Rachel, we talk about things all the time when it comes down to my weight loss journey. I told her what I wanted to lose before I go on vacation. She was like, Ramon, I don't know if that's realistic, but we're going to push for it. That's the thing. They're honest about it, and they will be honest with you if you're honest with yourself. Go to myPhDWeightLoss.com and be sure to tell them that Ramon sent you.
It's RKW powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone with Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Robert Walsh. I'm Will Bowling. All right, are your brains properly prepared?
I'm ready today.
Ramon and Kayla.
I'm ready today.
We'll see what happens.
Robert Walsh is always prepared. I don't have to ask him because he knows himself.
I'd hope so.
Robert has not always been the beacon of male performance you hear before you. What is the script that's been given to me? This is ridiculous.
Heck?
At one point in his life, he had quite the injury bug. How did Robert dislocate both of his shoulders in high school?
What?
This is like the upper body Carson Wentz, when Carson Wentz sprained both of his ankles at the same time.
Jimmy White breaking both arms.
Was it A, falling off the roof of a house party? Was it B, in a professional wrestling match? Or was it C, trying to catch an errant neighborhood goose?
Oh, my God.
Mona Kayla, you have 2 minutes
I'll
of
go
pro-con
first today.
debate.
Okay.
The guys from the Carolinas, I know they have a big wrestling factory camp over there. I'm going wrestling because he's young enough, couldn't figure out life at that moment, and say, you know what, screw it. I'll either go NASCAR or I'll wrestle. And he chose wrestling, so I'm going with wrestling.
Okay. I'm just going to go with then the other answer that could involve wrestling since it's in his blood, and that's trying to take down a goose. C.
Interesting.
I will say, all of these things did happen, but only one of them resulted in me dislocating both of my shoulders.
Okay.
So I don't know how it is in high school for you guys, but in North Carolina, we had to do something called a senior project, where you chose a subject and you learned about it, and then you did a presentation on said subject. My presentation was on professional wrestling.
Okay.
I went to a school,
Oh.
I learned, I put on the show at my high school, and I promptly broke both of my shoulders. So
There he is.
Ramon Foster
Good job,
is
Ramon.
on the board.
The first winner.
Nice.
Hey, my
Nice.
brethren.
Was that the bell when you broke your shoulders, or was that a bell saying Ramon's right?
Hey, that was one of the most badass moments of my life because I did the match did not end. I finished I finished the match. My girlfriend was in attendance. I was not going to look like an L7 weenie in front of her. So I had to finish the match, and I remember winning and the referee grabbing my wrist to like raise my hand in victory, and my shoulder popped back into socket.
Yeah.
Dude, because that's how you get your shoulders back. You just got to get them over your head, and he quickly launched that bad boy up there and just popped back into socket.
So wait, did you sign
done.
some waivers? I felt like the only reason why I didn't pick that is because that to put you out there and to actually do the wrestling thing, that's a lot that involves, you putting your life at risk there.
For sure. I had a lot of buddies who did it. Actually, the guy who cut my hair where I'm from was a professional wrestler.
Wow.
And I was infatuated with it. I went and watched him do multiple matches, and then I told him about this project, and he was like, well, we can train you. We can teach you how to do this. So for 6 months, I trained for this. 6 months, I went there and rolled and took bumps and got choke slammed and body slammed and all this stuff. And all for that, just for me to dislocate both of my shoulders. Still have very good friends within the wrestling industry. Love professional wrestling, but all of those things were true, though. I did have to wrangle a neighborhood goose that was attacking children at a bus stop.
Oh my gosh!
Did you go at it?
Oh yeah, well it was
Geese are mean.
They're so
it was
mean.
me and these other young high schoolers, and there were girls there, and I was like, I ain't scared of no goose. So I went over there, wrangled the goose, thinking that I was going to be like, this is our bus stop. But the goose did not.
He didn't have
goose did not feel that way. And the roof I fell off of, there was a trampoline underneath it, so I felt a little safer about that. No injuries were involved with falling off of the roof.
Was it a party?
It was a party.
Okay, good.
And I was the life of it.
It's like
Just
Michael
wanted to make
Scott
sure.
standing on top of Dunne Mifflin Scranton, looking down at the trampoline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw the watermelon. Try it out.
Of those scenarios, had never had a bone pop out like that, like shoulders. I see guys, I almost feel like that's hereditary, or you got to have that hard of a hit for something like that to happen. Shoulders popping out, never have done it. But I'll tell you guys what. I, like Bert, have been waiting on an opportunity for a mean goose to just come up.
Sure.
A portion of me is thinking to myself, oh, we going to go. We gonna go.
We're in battle.
I'm gonna get a new pillow from this goose, okay? 'Cause that's what I'm thinking.
A down
But
pillow.
I know initially I'm probably gonna run first because they come with the wings all flapping
Yeah,
wide.
they do.
Doing
Yeah,
all
that's
that
the
type of
problem.
stuff. And I'm gonna say to myself, I'm a man. I'm almost 40. I gotta fight this thing, okay? That's where I'm at. I'm a man. I gotta fight this bird. And at that point, I gotta figure out, do I uppercut it? Do I grab his by his neck? Do I like grab the beak? Like, do I snatch wings and say, you know what? Dinner's made tonight. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm here to tell you, if you see me running first, it's okay. Cause it's gonna click eventually. I'm a man and I got this.
And you're almost 40. You're
gonna set the
get a
goose up.
I'm gonna set him up. I'm gonna bring him to
Yeah.
the trap to where the cops can't see me abusing it. Sorry, Peter. Okay,
I was just
but
going to say, make sure Pete is not
Well,
looking.
you
It
got to eat
attacked
it,
me.
but I will tell you that goose is the worst bird I've ever had.
You
so
had it?
You've eaten
so
it?
tough.
You've
Oh yeah, I've
eaten
been goose hunting before. Goose gravy. You
Yeah.
ever heard of that at Christmas?
No.
I have.
My
heard of
granny
that,
would make
actually.
goose gravy. It is terribly
What?
tough. It is so stringy. It is the worst bird meat there is. So I mean, there's really no incentive unless they just challenge your manhood, and you got to show a bird what's what.
So that is that's always tough on the golf course when you're about to go
Yeah.
like chip onto the green and then just like a flock of geese just
Yeah.
start wading onto the green. I'm ready to just take my pitching wedge and just try to aim for the fences sometimes on one of those.
Can we
things.
do that? Like, legitimately, can we do that? Because
If he's coming after me, that's self-defense. In a court
Right.
of law, are you kidding me?
Sure.
I'll hire a better lawyer than that goose can.
Goose defender. Dun dun dun. This goose says Will assaulted him on a golf course.
Oh my gosh.
Will said the goose says he was too close to his nest.
Instead of Judge Judy, Judge Goosey.
Oh boy.
Weekends after Live Golf on the CW, it's Judge Goosey coming up.
If the meat's too tough, hey, guess what? Let's just make burgers out of it.
I'm down with that.
All right, cool.
Oof, I'm
So-
not eating goose.
Robert,
don't
did
have
you
goose.
have a wrestling name real quick in 30 seconds or less? Here?
You
didn't?
I was just Robbie Walsh, hometown
Okay.
hero.
Bert the Brute.
Bert the Bruiser.
Bert
I
the
wasn't
Brute
Bert.
would've
I
been
had
one
not
good one.
evolved into my Bertdom.
All right,
yet.
well,
No.
you're a master of. You got your doctorate in being Bert. Now.
There you go.
Bert the Brute.
Bert the
Weekdays from 6 to 10 under Mo and Kalen.
I like that.
Coming up next, 8 other teams begin mandatory minicamps this week as the Tennessee Titans get started at St. Thomas Sports Park today. One headline at every mandatory minicamp starting this week, including one involving a former Titans assistant. When we continue under Mo and Kalen Will, 104.5 The Zone.
early today. Ain't even 8 o'clock yet. 3, 2, 1. That's 8 o'clock on the dot. What the heck's going on from the Superbook.com sports desk? I'm Robert Walsh. Titans mandatory minicamp begins today, and that's going to run through Thursday. We're eager to see whether Kevin Byard attends or his absence continues. But one Titan that will not be absent is Tierra Tart. He signed his second-round tender yesterday, worth about $4.3 million. A nice little piece of scratch there. And just in time for today's minicamp, Tart had signed a waiver earlier in the offseason to be able to practice, but in order to be at minicamp, he had to sign his tender, so we're glad he did that. The NFL is probing Colts cornerback Isaiah Rodgers for possibly betting on the NFL. Rodgers took to Instagram to provide a statement saying, "I made an error in judgment, and I'm going to work hard to make sure those mistakes are rectified through this process." And in the NHL, Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals was a rout for the Golden Knights as the team Will Bowling irrationally hates dominated the team Ramon Foster didn't believe actually existed. The Golden Knights routed them 7-2 and extend their lead to 2 games. The Knights are 2 wins away from their first Stanley Cup as the series shifts to Florida. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Into the second half of our Tuesday morning. It is Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, where coming up in 20 minutes, Pro Football Focus writer Sam Monson will join us explaining why one Titans corner is an excellent fit in a new defense in 2023. That's next. And right now, headlines around 8 other mandatory mini camps as the NFL again reminds us that we don't care about your baseball. We don't care about your soccer, your golf, your anything else. NFL still king as always. With Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Robert Walsh, our producer. My name is Will Bowling. Tyler Sullivan of CBSSports.com gives the biggest storyline for each NFL mandatory minicamp this week. And the headline for the Titans, can Treylon Burks take a year 2 leap? Not going with Kevin Byard.
Yeah.
Hey now.
Going with wide receiver 1.
Thanks for joining the party.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it.
Yeah, we have. It's necessary that he does, especially with the evolution we hope of this offense. Like, he's got to be the guy. We saw all he did in college. We see the size. We see the measurables. He has the speed, the catch radius, hands are good. He has everything you need except for what does the offense entail when it comes down to his involvement in it. Is he capable? Heck, yes, without a doubt. You put him in Kansas City, different ball game. You put him in Buffalo, it's not even second guessing it, right? But here's where it's just asked, where is his level of involvement? And also this too, where is his help? I think that's huge. We speak about wide receiver number 1 all the time, but usually their Robin is usually that good. Look at AJ and Devontae right now. That is legitimately a situation where they made it work with both of them. Like, who's 1A and 1B? It doesn't matter because they're both threats. Like, I'm looking at Justin Jefferson this year. Like, he's got a rookie that's going to be his Robin. You know what I'm saying? What will his numbers look like? Treylon Burks is in that same conversation. Whoever it is, whether it's NWI, Colton Dow, or anybody else, like, they got to show up and prove Chig being the case, but I think he's more than capable of being the man.
Yeah, and we knew this coming in because we just knew there wasn't a ton of depth at this wide receiver position, and you just knew that this has to be the number 1 guy because there's nobody else right now who looks like that they're going to be that dude. Mm-hmm. And what we've seen from him is all of that, and we've heard that from all the head coaches. We've heard it from all the coaches. We've heard it from Rob Moore, his wide receivers coach, that he's incredibly impressed with just the jump that he's made. And now it's like, okay, can he continue to stay healthy throughout camp, right? Mm-hmm. And then I even think, like, just how are the guys along with him coming? Like Kyle Phillips, like, can he stay healthy just to help this conversation of what we expect out of this wide receivers room? That's what I think we're all going to be interested throughout the entire season, really.
The Cleveland Browns headline is, what does Jim Schwartz's defense look like? another team that starts mandatory mini camps this week. The other teams joining the Titans with practices this week that are mandatory, the 49ers and Dolphins. We mentioned the Browns and Titans, Raiders, Cowboys, Commanders, Lions, where Tyler Dunne, our friend from GoLongTD.com, is en route to. And then the Seahawks, also starting mandatory mini camps this week. A couple of places where you've got quarterback questions. And I think the most interesting one is in San Francisco, where the question is, does Trey Lance or Sam Darnold get the majority of the reps as quarterback one without Brock Purdy available in San Francisco?
Good question.
Man, look how Brock's positioned himself, though, to actually be in this conversation as Mr. Irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? Like, all it takes is a shot. And that's one thing I will say Trey Lance has not had. He's not had a shot. Sam Darnold's had numerous shots, man, when it comes down to it. But it's taking advantage of opportunity, and it's also situational football, too. Like Brock Purdy won big games in situational football, and I think that gives a whole lot of credit. That puts a whole lot of money into the emotional data bank of coaches and staffs, too. This is going to be fascinating to see because the fifth-year option conversation is always going to come up, but then you have the vet that you can just have as a bridge guy if you want to do something differently with Trey Lance.
Yeah, and I think they're going to give Trey Lance still a shot at trying to be something, right? Because Brock Purdy's still hurt. And we don't know exactly when he'll be available. But right now, why don't you see what you have if you can get anything from Trey Lance and then just let that competition play out once Purdy is available? I mean, the worst case scenario is you've got a great backup, right?
Right. You do have a great backup, and that matters a whole lot in this game too. So San Francisco, they're on the clock watch as far as quarterback goes. Brock Purdy's elbow, I think, UCL,
Right elbow, just recently resumed throwing.
Recently. I'm actually rooting for him.
It's a great story.
I like Trey Lance. I will not front. If there was an opportunity for him to get traded here, it may cost a good bit. I would have been on that train for it. But he's just been riddled with injuries so far.
Question in Vegas is the health of Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback who underwent left foot surgery after signing with the Raiders earlier this offseason. So he won't be ready. That now puts Brian Hoyer, Purdue's Aiden O'Connell, and Chase Garbers in the driver's seat at the quarterback position for Josh McDaniels and the Raiders.
I'm sorry.
In mandatory minicamp.
What were they thinking? They knew about this injury when they signed him. I'm sorry. I do not see this being a good scenario because, again, who's their head coach? Who hasn't proven jack? Josh McDaniels.
He continues
and that's
to get
with
jobs.
Mediocre quarterback play. Whoever the starter is, even Jimmy.
Yeah. Jimmy G's situation is fascinating. He's almost urban legend-like in his approach to like being able to get jobs and convince teams that he's going to be their franchise guy. He has it in him, right? He kind of got pushed out or whatever you want to call it in San Francisco. Has it in him, maybe one knee injury away from actually having a real big-time career too. And Vegas, I got a feeling McDaniels may be out sooner than later. Everything surrounding him right now, the operation of this team, management of it, the players, some being disgruntled, some just, look at Devontae when it comes down to his conversation around that team. Like, it's fascinating that every place this guy has been, Josh McDaniels that is, has kind of just gone into tank mode.
Yeah.
And yet and still people want to put him at the front of their organization. Jimmy G right now is stuck in a bad spot because here's a guy that needs to reset himself and has that ability because they cut Derek Carr last year and went and retained Jimmy G. And now you got a head coach that doesn't know how to manage you or the team, it seems like. Foul. Hard foul. Flagrant foul.
I agree with you.
Out of the 9 teams who are practicing in the mandatory minicamp phase this week, I think I'm most interested in the Washington Commanders. Because Eric Bieniemy taking control of that offense and doing so with Sam Howell as his quarterback, I think is a really interesting dynamic. I really thought the smoke around Lamar Jackson going anywhere made a lot of sense for Washington, considering the way they brought in Bieniemy and wanted to change that offensive system. I just don't know if I've seen enough from Sam Howell to be confident enough in him starting. And now you've got Jacoby Brissett sitting behind him, the eternal all-time quarterback, the new Brian Hoyer there in Washington. So I'm interested to see how Eric Bieniemy gets on without having Andy Reid on the same staff. Because for all the talk we had about the Titans and their reported interest in Bieniemy and Matt Nagy over the offseason, he ends up going to Washington. What ends up happening there, I think, is really fascinating.
It could be exposed in a good way. It could be exposed in the absolute awful way, right? With Bieniemy in particular.
Yeah.
With Sam Howell, I feel like Terry McLaurin, early on at least, in terms of, OTAs and the things that they've been working with Sam Howell, he's actually spoke some high praise of Sam Howell. Terry McLaurin has.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that's going to mean he's going to be a starter that's going to be successful, that doesn't mean anything. But you're hearing a little bit out of camp. But I think in their situation, it's just roll the dice. What's going to happen this year? Because there's so many different questions there.
It is. And Washington, you're right. So many questions. It's been that way for, I feel like, the last 5 years when we talk about the Commanders or the team that was, man. Bieniemy, this is his shot. This is where all, the rubber meets the road when it comes down to his play call and management. What is he going to be, in this position? Washington's not a bad team. They got a lot of talent, some good players. The quarterback being the biggest detriment to anything surrounding it, though. There was a lot of people that love Howell when he came out, though, Will. What does that look like in the NFL with him having a full 17? What does that look like with Eric Bieniemy as his guy when he didn't necessarily pick Sam Howell to be his quarterback? That also matters, too.
That's a good point.
Picking of the quarterback for the system you want to run. Like, he may get a one-year trial run with Bieniemy. And next year, what was Howell? The second, third round pick?
I believe second.
Second, I think. Yeah.
Disposable.
Especially with the slew of quarterbacks coming out. Again, we say this every year, but there are some talented dudes coming out next year.
Sam Howell was a third-round pick.
He was.
Or he was, 145th overall. So he's a fifth-round pick.
Disposable,
wow.
Man. I hate it's like that, but that's exactly how it goes in this league.
Dang.
And especially when it's not your guy that picked you, too.
It's really weird that was their plan then. Like, give him a chance. I don't know. I mean, you don't see that often.
The biggest, I guess, contribution to the Commanders is Bieniemy. And I think when you have a guy you think is that good at play calling, you kind of bank in on that. You gamble with that.
Coming up next, Sam Monson of Pro Football Focus stops by. We'll ask him the biggest storyline that he is following at Titans camp and the praise that he gave Sean Murphy-Bunting as one of the top corners in the AFC. What does Sam Monson like the most about the Tennessee Titans' new addition to the secondary? We'll talk about that coming up next as minicamp week begins here in Nashville. Sam Monson stops by coming up on RKW.
It's Ramon Foster for United Structural Systems. And if you have a wet basement or crawl space, guess what? It's time to call United Structural Systems because we've all heard about these guys for a long time and for good reasons. They've served Middle Tennessee since 1994, and they've helped thousands of satisfied residential customers in that time. They are the go-to company when it comes to foundation repair and waterproofing, okay? And if you don't believe me, I'm here to tell you from my guy Chris K. He said this, the crew that worked on his house has been top-notch. I appreciate the integrity, which is hard to find these days, speed of feedback, and quality of work provided by all who have worked with us. That's from my guy Chris K. locally, and that was on 4/14/23. I'm telling you, this is the best thing you can do if you have a foundation or waterproofing issue is call United Structural Systems. Get that free estimate from the people I trust. Simply go to USSTN.com. Again, that's USSTN.com, or call them at 615-227-2275 and tell them Ramon sent you.
It's Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone. Visit allfourseasonsgarages.com/Nashville. Alongside Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling, and on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline joining us is Sam Monson from Pro Football Focus as we hit the NFL headlines and preview Titans mandatory minicamp starting today. What's going on, Sam? How are you?
Doing well, guys. How about you?
Good morning.
We are good, and we're looking forward to, even if it's just June, watching a little bit of football this week here in Nashville. When it comes to this Titans team, Sam, what is the biggest storyline that you're following here for mandatory minicamp?
Yeah, the Titans, I think, are an interesting team. They've sort of felt like with this new regime, new personnel direction, that they've kind of had their finger poised over the reset button this offseason without ever really, hitting that button and sort of firmly starting this reboot of a franchise. So it's kind of keeping track of what exactly this season is going to look like for Tennessee. We've got some pieces in place that were there when this team was the number one seed in the AFC, Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, guys like this. But then there's so many new faces and so many sort of pieces of evidence that point to some kind of rebuild. And it's just going to, I think, be fascinating to see exactly what kind of shape this team takes this year.
And Sam, one of those additions is corner Sean Murphy-Bunting. I know you guys were complimentary of him at Pro Football Focus, putting him among those top 10 cornerbacks in the AFC. What do you like the most about him and the fit here in Nashville?
Yeah, I think he's a talented player. Sort of prototypical size, 6 foot, almost 200 pounds. A guy that's played both inside in the slot and outside for Tampa Bay during his career. The Bucs sort of drafted a bunch of these corners that were all big physical guys in a couple of seasons, and I think Murphy-Bunting has shown that at his best, he's one of the better guys out there, and his versatility, I think, is really top tier. I think he can play in man or zone schemes, make a lot of plays on the ball, and I think he's just generally a really important player in a secondary, given how many different ways he can line up and how many different schemes he can play.
Sam, I don't think we've asked you much about the guys that have re-signed here, who have signed here as free agents. One of those dudes, man, is you can give a little bit more insight on is Arden Key. What does he bring to a team like this to where he's now able to establish himself as him, this time around in free agency?
Yeah, Arden Key's a really fun player because he's the kind of guy that came into the NFL, and there's a bunch of these guys that really struggle, these sort of long, tall, thin, undersized edge rushers. Yeah. And these guys dominate in college. He was 6'5", 240, something like that when he came into the league. And, guys can be 240 and still dominate on the edge. We saw Nolan Smith drafted in the first round at smaller than that. But they tend to be much shorter. They're sort of compact 240 pounds. But guys like Arden Key, and there was a bunch of them, Shalik Calhoun, who's another one. A load of these guys kind of came into the league. And the really thin, lightweight ones are the ones that tend to struggle and to really find difficulty kind of converting that college production against bigger, stronger NFL offensive tackles. But Key is just sort of consistently packed on size and muscle and has become a really good pass rusher over the last couple of years, generally as a sort of situational guy. But the last couple of years, he's, I think, had the first or the second and third most snaps he's played over a season, and by far the best pass rushing grades for a couple of different teams now, for San Francisco, for Jacksonville. And I think he's now shown that he's got the size and the strength and the durability to hold up, and maybe he could see his role expanded significantly and sort of see if that situational production can translate into being more of an every down player now that he's had the time to kind of adjust his body to the rigors of an NFL season.
And that's where I want to go next, man, is adjusting your body, man, Sam. And you guys' history of giving grades and reporting and studying guys, man. Have you ever had a guy to have a back injury, an ACL injury, play cornerback, bounce back from those injuries, and become studs? I'm talking about Caleb Farley, the former first rounder here in Tennessee, right? Like, how do you foresee his career kind of moving forward with all of those things he's had, the issues, of not learning the playbook? What's the best case scenario for a guy like him?
Yeah, it's a tough projection. We loved Caleb Farley coming out. The season that he had, his best season in college, was special. And given that speed, given the closing speed, the recovery speed that he has or had, I think his ceiling, his potential is huge. But obviously, we're kind of running out of time to see that, just to see it put together. And he's barely played in the NFL so far. What he has played, he hasn't looked particularly good. It's tough. Like, it's a hard enough jump just going from college to the NFL.
Yeah.
It's harder still at the cornerback position. I think it's one of the toughest positions in the game now, generally, and also to translate from college to the NFL. And then when you're dealing with these consecutive injuries that are just stacking up, it's just putting him further and further behind the eight ball. So, with his size, his build, his speed, he's got all the tools, but we don't know if those are still there, if those are still in place, given the injuries that he's been dealing with. It's just a really tough situation for him. I think at this stage, given what we've seen from him, or more importantly, what we haven't seen from him, you basically have to kind of write him off in terms of expectations. Like, if he shows you anything, it's a bonus, but you're probably not even planning for that eventuality anymore.
So what you call him? Special teamer? Backup, 2-3, like, because he can have a career, but you're not seeing it at cornerback at this point.
Oh, he might still be able to play a corner, but if you're the Titans, you can't bank on it going forward. You have to be working on the basis that if he comes in and proves that he can make the roster and exceed expectations, then great. But, you have to be essentially planning for life beyond Caleb Farley, and maybe his career ends up actually happening somewhere else. Like, he's just, I think, because of the first round pedigree, the fact that, you've got a reasonable contract tied to him, even in rookie terms, like, he's just sort of running out of time to show it in Tennessee.
So we're looking at the Kevin Byard storyline. Obviously, he has not been at OTAs, but usually he doesn't do that. He does his own stuff with his trainer. But now mini camp coming up, that's where the fines come into play. So if you don't see Kevin Byard out there in this week particularly, Sam, is there a chance they could move him still? And what would the money situation be with that now that the salary cap rules have changed this offseason?
Yeah, there's a chance, but it's tough because the reasons that Tennessee are going to be sort of pushing back on giving him a giant sum of money are going to be the reasons that trades are going to be difficult. If you're trying to move a guy right now, it's because his contract is something that you don't necessarily want to have or don't want to invest in as much, and the new team is going to be in a similar kind of boat, even if the circumstances are different in terms of what the rest of their roster looks like and all those kinds of things. So I think fundamentally Kevin Byard deserves to be paid as well as pretty much any safety in the NFL. And there are definitely going to be teams out there that have, I think, a better overall roster and a better overall defense, that it makes a little bit more sense for them to invest in that kind of one piece to put them over the top than it does for the Titans. But it's tough to swing that kind of trade in June or, late in the summer once all these personnel moves have already been made. I think we probably end up in a situation where they try to come together and compromise on whatever this deal looks like.
Okay. With the wide receivers, you've kept track of what's going on here. And what we have seen early on that is positive, I guess, is just the growth of Treylon Burks this offseason. So that's been the talk of camp, at least for OTAs, with camp starting here this week. What do you feel like Treylon Burks could really realistically do this season? 1,000 yards receiving? Is that plausible?
I think it's entirely plausible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Treylon Burks has an incredibly high ceiling. Like, that guy, when everybody was doing their college scouting, a year ago, and we're looking at these receivers, Treylon Burks is the guy that immediately jumped off the tape, I think probably more than any of these other guys. And then it was only sort of the longer you went into it and the more you started to pick it apart and start asking questions like, this is a very strange role that they have him in Arkansas. They're kind of, it's not a conventional wide receiver role, and some of the biggest plays he's making are against some pretty bad competition. And the sort of the deeper you dive, the more you had questions about his tape. But like, he really jumped off the tape as this absolute physical specimen, the guy capable of incredible plays at all levels of the field. But it was always going to take a pretty significant transition given the strange role that they had him in, given all these questions that we had. And then his workout at the combine, I think, wasn't as good as people expected it to be. But I think ultimately, we saw last year, he's capable of making special plays. If they can get him comfortable in, a specific receiver role within this offense and have him just maximize his talents, I think he's capable of hitting pretty much any ceiling.
Sam Monson from Pro Football Focus, our guest here this morning on Ramon, Kalen, Will. Sam, switching gears to some of the other mini camps starting this week. I mentioned before the break that Eric Bieniemy and Sam Howell's relationship in Washington just fascinates me. And comparing that to another second-year quarterback in Desmond Ridder in Atlanta, between those two guys, Sam Howell and Desmond Ridder, is there one of those two you feel more confident in going into this offseason?
Not really. When you look at last year's group of quarterbacks, it was bad. I mean, nobody liked that group at draft time. Obviously, Kenny Pickett ends up going in the first round to Pittsburgh. I often wonder how far down the draft he would have slid if Pittsburgh decided that they weren't interested in a first-round quarterback. None of those guys were worth that kind of pick, or whether he would have been picked there by some team in the first round, or if he would have had the kind of slide that Desmond Ridder or Malik Willis had, and ended up in the mid rounds if the Steelers didn't pull the trigger. But that group was not a great group of quarterbacks. So you have Pickett, who I think showed quite a lot year one, and obviously Brock Purdy, surprising everybody, is Mr. Irrelevant. But then you've got guys like Desmond Ridder, who kind of looked like he did in college. He showed the occasional flash, had some reasonable play, but overall the baseline was not good. Malik Willis really struggled. And then Sam Howell kind of got basically a game at the back end of the season and looked, pretty good, but incredibly small sample size. So now we're rolling into this season and basically asking how good either of those guys can be with a full off season and I guess support from the franchise in terms of labeling them the number one guy and the future. But we are coming from sort of such a low ebb of expectations for this group of quarterbacks, this year's worth of drafted quarterbacks, that it's tough to really sort of see them absolutely being the guy going forward. But I'm excited that they get the chance. Like, I think more young prospects should get that kind of opportunity because it takes time to develop that in the NFL. You don't necessarily get it from day one.
Well, Sam, another guy getting that opportunity is Trey Lance in San Francisco, also starting mandatory minicamps this week and kind of battling a bit with Sam Darnold while Brock Purdy just begins his throwing and getting back to full health. What do you make of Trey Lance at this point in his career? What is the path towards that guy potentially being a starting quarterback either in San Francisco or elsewhere in the next season or two?
Yeah, it's a sort of weirdly big offseason for him. You're right. It's a big opportunity with Brock Purdy not there for him to kind of take control and try and win back the job that was supposed to be his. And even if he doesn't win back that job, to at least put himself in the shop window and try and get a gig somewhere else. Like, it's really important to kind of understand just how little football Trey Lance has played ever, not just in the NFL, but in college. And like, he's hardly played the position at all and was drafted third overall almost entirely based off traits. This 6'4", 225 pounds, incredibly athletic, big arm. But he had, a couple of hundred pass attempts in college, hadn't really been a high volume guy at any point in his career, and then has been injured in the NFL as well and hasn't gotten the opportunities in an offense that we know is kind of a cheat code. The Kyle Shanahan system gets production out of pretty much any quarterback that is playing, so he almost certainly would have some kind of success in this offense. He's just not had that opportunity. He's lost it essentially to Brock Purdy. So I think it is a really big offseason for him to show just some kind of development and growth and understanding of the position given how young he is to it and prove to other teams, if not the 49ers, that he can be a starting quarterback going forward.
Sam, what type of team is getting DeAndre Hopkins, and what are you actually getting out of him as he's yet to be signed?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends just what DeAndre Hopkins wants. If he really wants to chase a ring, obviously that sort of self-selects a bunch of teams. If he wants a serious payday and the deal that Odell Beckham signed is probably going to complicate things. Like, he's not going to take a really cheap deal because Beckham showed that you can get a ton of money with a ton of question marks about you as a wide receiver still. So I think as for what he is, I think he's probably lost a step or lost a little bit of the ability to really threaten teams deep. He was never a burner to begin with, but you watch the tape over the last couple of years when he has been on the field, and he really isn't sort of taking the top off the defense. He really isn't winning vertically very often anymore, but he can win everywhere else. He can win underneath. He can win on anything that, is in-breaking, out-breaking. He's really good against zone defenses still. He understands how coverages work and where the space is and how to set up defensive backs, and he still has great hands. So if you already have a receiver on your roster that can threaten vertically, that can take the top off the defense, that can make defenses respect that, then DeAndre Hopkins, I think, is a perfect foil for that guy and can still be a really high volume, productive receiver for you. If you need him to come in and be, a truly elite number one guy, then maybe that's asking a bit too much at this point.
He is Sam Monson, PFF_Sam, where you can find him on Twitter, always making us smarter here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Great stuff, Sam. We really appreciate it.
Definitely.
Anytime, guys. Take it easy.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And I think specifically, guys, the answer there on Traylon Burks intrigues me. About he had the highest ceiling of anybody in that class last year, but based on the system he was running at Arkansas, you always knew it was going to be a little bit of a longer-term adjustment.
Sure.
How long is long-term?
I think last year.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say.
I would agree.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Again, but that's what happens around draft time too, right? You're high on them, and then you find all the little holes in their game to be able to just say, okay, he's not this, he's not that, and the guy's capable. I think the initial response to him is, yeah, he can lead this team. He can go with this team. I like the idea that he's a dude that a lot of people are enamored by, and love the fact that he is what you call tight and tough.
100%.
Well, coming up next, in about 20 minutes, we will learn where Tennessee baseball is headed in the Super Regional. And yesterday on 3HL, ESPN's Chris Lowe had an interesting comment when asked about the politics involved with hosting or not hosting this Super Regional. It's going to be Tennessee and Southern Miss. We know that, but we're going to learn in 20 minutes where and when. And apparently there's some politics involved in this that Tennessee fans are not going to like to hear. We'll play you that audio coming up next on RKW 104.5 The Zone. Hour 3 continues here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Visit allfourseasonsgarages.com/Nashville. In 15 minutes, when we come back for Hour 4, we will know specifically and officially where Tennessee and Southern Miss will be playing in the NCAA Super Regional. You may ask, well, isn't Southern Miss seeded higher because they were with a 13 seed? Meanwhile, Tennessee was with a 4 seed. Like we mentioned yesterday, Tennessee baseball and NCAA baseball is only seeded 1 through 16. Mm-hmm. So essentially now you have a bidding process happening between Knoxville and Hattiesburg, between the 40-19 Tennessee Volunteers and the 45-18 Southern Miss Golden Eagles.
Jeez.
Chris Lowe of ESPN.com was on 3HL yesterday and implied that there may be some politics working against Tennessee in this battle to host the Super Regional.
I got a feeling that Southern Miss may. I know it's going to make Tennessee fans mad. The Southern Miss may get the host if it's Tennessee and Southern Miss. I just think for a couple of reasons, the Southern Miss coach is retiring. I think there'll be a sentimental reason to do that. Southern Miss was pretty close to being one of the 16 host regional sites, and I think the RPI, Tennessee's got a better RPI. And here's the part that's going to make Tennessee fans the maddest. I think there might be some Vitello fatigue on the committee. And I know they would never admit that. No one's going to say that. Tennessee's for the villains of baseball. I'm not saying that's right, but I do think when you get into this situation, it's so subjective. There's not like any A, B, C, D. It's sort of the committee that gets in that room and decides when it's a 2 seed versus a 2 seed in the Super Regional who it should be. We'll see. I mean, Tennessee. I'm not saying Tennessee won't be the host because it's been such an event, such a happening in Tennessee the last few years. When they have hosted Super Regional, they've made it into a huge celebration of baseball. But I also think in talking to some people that are pretty close to this situation, that Southern Miss, if they do indeed hold on and beat Penn, has a really good chance to edge Tennessee and be the host for that Super Regional.
So there you go.
Wow.
That was Chris Lowe yesterday on 3HL when asked about the potential for either Knoxville or Hattiesburg to host the Super Regional. Tennessee had a higher RPI than Southern Miss, ranking 12th versus Southern Miss at 18th. The SEC had a higher league RPI than the Sun Belt, where Southern Miss qualified out of. Tennessee beat a better team in Clemson, who was ranked 8th in the RPI, then beat Charlotte, who was 67th. The best team Southern Miss beat in the Auburn Regional was number 30 Auburn in terms of RPI. They lost to number 62 Samford, and they got 2 wins over number 102 Penn.
Yep.
Tennessee has better strength of schedule, better RPI, a harder path to get there. It should be the Knoxville Super Regional, not the Hattiesburg Super Regional. I'm
going to jump in because I, again, not a Vols fan at all, and I will say that Knoxville should be hosting. And look, taking nothing away from Southern Miss. Actually, that's a great baseball environment.
Really good. Yeah.
But I do feel like it's sometimes the politics play in and almost to like even out things a little because the SEC is so dominant in terms of the love that they get. They know that the fans show up. You'd think that that'd be the obvious choice with all the other reasons why Tennessee baseball should be hosting. But it's the last year, right, for the Southern Miss head coach.
Yeah.
And like you said, maybe they haven't hosted, obviously, in a while. They haven't had that opportunity. So why not grant them it now since you can make a little bit of an argument for it? But when it comes down to it, Knoxville should be hosting.
It should be. I just looked up 6-hour drive from here to Hattiesburg. Also, I got to look at lodging. I got to look at, just all types of things when it comes down to them actually hosting this. Again, I look at it and I say to myself, Knoxville's definitely deserving of it, but the NCAA does what it wants to at times. And I could see a scenario which is just an easy, Hattiesburg, let's just do it there. It sucks, but the better team should be hosting. I think that's in Knoxville.
Yeah.
Well, and they're pretty good, too. I'm not going to make it seem they're not a good team.
Yeah,
absolutely
they're a good team.
not.
It is certainly an interesting debate because you have Southern Miss coach Scott Berry, who has guided the Golden Eagles for the last 14 seasons. He's been a part of the program for 23 years.
Yeah.
Chris Lowe of ESPN implying yesterday that maybe his retirement at the end of the season sways the committee to give them a kind of one final send-off for their program's all-time winningest coach. I certainly think the Vitello fatigue thing is legit.
I do.
I think people in college baseball, and I just think that baseball officials and umpires, more so than any other sport, hate being shown up.
Sure.
And want to be the show. I think it's them and college basketball refs, quite honestly, who, when you know their names as much as we do,
Yeah.
you know more not college umpires, but you know more umpire names in baseball than you do any other league other than the NFL, because the NFL is just always king in general. But the fact that you can't have props in the field anymore, well, where did that probably start? The daddy hat and the mink coat,
Right.
the fur coat. I know other teams have had props and things like that, but it just seems like I think the NCAA wants to make things a little bit more difficult on Tennessee. And you know what?
What?
I think Tennessee fans shouldn't run from that.
No. I was thinking the same thing.
Tennessee fans, I'm gonna call you out if you have a victim mentality and a victim mindset if you go on the road, because this is what you have to embrace when you call yourselves the villains of the sport. You have to embrace the fact that the breaks are not going to go your way and that people are going to kind of have it out for you a little bit. Don't become a victim with that, Tennessee fans, the next 10, 15 minutes. Embrace it.
Yeah.
Embrace it.
If you go on the road, just go win there.
And
Fine.
I'm kind of thinking what this Vols team take on going to Clemson. They took on a mentality where they're like, you know what? We don't care if we were not great on the road this year. We went to Clemson. We won that regional. Hey, we got to go to Southern Miss now. We don't get to be home. It didn't get us to the World Series last year, so let's dominate on the road again.
Treat it like Michael Scott, okay? Love it even harder. Love it even harder. Okay, play this villain role up as much as you possibly can. And for a team like Tennessee, guess what? Be role warriors. Maybe you don't need to be in the conference of Knoxville. I'm here for it, Will.
Yeah.
I'd love it if we were in Knoxville, but I get it.
We're setting the precedent on the front end that while Tennessee probably is the better team and deserves to host more than Southern Miss, you can't complain if you're a Tennessee fan because you kind of made this bed, now you got to lie in it when it comes to being the villain of a sport. This is what comes with the territory.
It is.
So get ready. I think it's going to be in Hattiesburg.
I absolutely love it. I'm going to be real with
Oh,
you.
yeah, embrace it.
I love it. Treat it like Miami, the U.
That's
And, you know,
right.
back in the day, screw it. We're all in. Treat it like the University of spoiled children, right, Kayla?
Yeah.
Treat it like USC.
Now they're irrelevant.
Like, there's nothing.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
If you're that good, go knock them off.
Love it. Coming up next, we will tell you where Tennessee is headed in the Super Regional because that news is set to break in 5 minutes. So stick around. Coming up next, we'll tell you where Tennessee baseball heads this weekend as 16 teams remain in the NCAA tournament. Ron Slay will be in the building to take the roof off the building at 9:20 and much more in hour 4 of the show. 4's up around Middle Tennessee. It's RKW 104.5 The Zone.
9 o'clock on the dot. What the heck's going on? From the Superbook.com sports desk, I'm Robert Walsh. Titans mandatory minicamp begins today. And if you needed a reason to listen to the Buck Rising Show, I'll give you two of them. One, Lucas Panzica. Two, Kevin Byard will or will not be at practice. And you will find that out today around 10 o'clock. They'll be the ones to tell you. One Titan who will be in attendance is Tierre Tart. He signed his second-round tender worth about $4.3 million just in time for today's minicamp. He had signed a waiver earlier in the offseason to be able to practice, but in order to be at minicamp today, he had to sign his tender. The NFL is probing Colts cornerback Isaiah Rodgers for possible betting within the team and on the team. Rodgers took to Instagram to provide a statement saying, "I made an error in judgment, and I'm going to work hard to make sure those mistakes are rectified through the process." And in the NHL, Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals was a rout for the Golden Knights as the team Will Bowling irrationally hates dominated the team Ramon Foster didn't even believe existed. The Golden Knights won 7-2, extending their lead to 2 games. The Golden Knights are 2 wins away from their first Stanley Cup as the series shifts to Florida. And breaking news on the other side with Ramon, Kayla, and Will, they're going to let you know whether the Vols get to host a Super Regional. That's coming up next. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Fourth and final hour of the show. It's your Tuesday morning rolling on for 60 more minutes. It's a beautiful morning to have a good morning. It's RKW on 104.5 The Zone, where Ron Slay will stop by in 20 minutes. And we now know where Tennessee baseball will play Southern Miss with a trip to Omaha on the line. But first, that's Ramon Foster.
Yeah.
She's Kayla Anderson. Behind the glass, there's Robert Walsh. My name is Will Bowling. Tennessee baseball will be on the road this weekend in Hattiesburg.
Yep.
It becomes official from NCAA baseball Saturday at 2 p.m. Central, Sunday to be announced, Monday, if necessary, to be determined. It is Tennessee, despite having the better resume, the villains for the Vols will be on the road.
There it is.
It is. Run it
We
up.
were right.
Run it up. That's
what
be
I'm
exactly
saying.
what
Yeah.
it is. Like, run it up. Like, seriously, go in there, take the coat,
Why
take the
not?
hat, and take the personality with you, too. I think it's a beautiful concept of having them on the road. I mean, heck, if you win, you got to be on the road anyway in Omaha. So what are we talking about here? This is beautiful. You didn't do enough during the season to actually get to this point. You won. And you got in, and you ended up winning well when it came down to the Clemson Regional. Mm-hmm. This is what you should do. You should embrace this. This team is totally different than the team last year. Last year, you got all of those treatments. Last year, you got everybody's darlings that you needed to be.
And it didn't get you to the World Series.
There we go. You hosted and got smacked. We call it a smacking by Notre Dame. We call it whatever you want it to be. You didn't do well when you hosted.
You didn't get out when you needed to get out of that. But here's the thing. This is a new challenge. They embraced it in Clemson. Mm-hmm. That to me says they're on the right path of doing just that at Southern Miss.
Yeah.
And Southern Miss is a good team. Let's not take anything away from that team. And I bet you they'll have a great environment. But if he has his guys focused at the right time, and if what he said after that regional win of we have been continuing to do better at the things we needed to get better at, then that's going to have to play over to this weekend. And you can take care of business and you can punch that ticket.
And we'll see what type of team they are, too, for this reasons right here. When you feel like you've been done wrong in sports and you know you have another opportunity to play. Like the right-minded teams, the teams that are coached well and have that right mentality about themselves and say, hey, guys, look at us. Even if you are the favorite, you still find a way to tricking yourself. Look at us. They don't believe in us. We should be hosting.
You think Tony uses that?
He better. Yeah, but do I think so? Yes, 100% I think he does.
I need this Tennessee team to be as doubted and as still behind the 8 ball as possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's where they're at their most dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All season, this team, down to its final strike, has been at its best when they were down in the 9th inning to Vanderbilt, which sparked the entire turnaround of the whole season, when they needed to win 2 out of 3 at South Carolina, and they did.
Yep.
And when they're down to their final strike in Clemson twice in the 9th inning, they come back and win. Embrace it.
Isn't it kind of crazy, though, Will? Like, Kayla, like, it's flipped from last year. Like, last year, this should have been the mentality while you were on top of the hill. And now, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is what that experience of, like, having older players and having a team that's gone to situations before, right? When the Chiefs, and I hate to keep using them over and over again, but when the Chiefs in the playoffs, right? Or when the Patriots were in the playoffs, there was no hesitation into, oh, yeah, they're going to do well. They got this. They've been there before. It's one of those act like you've been there before moments. Like, this is just where it's at. For when it comes down to you being a competitor, you being a really good team, is they have players on this Vols team that have been there before. The experience of being on the road, and honestly, the criticism of them not winning well on the road should follow. And if I was Southern Miss, I'd say the same thing. Let's make this thing as toxic as we possibly can, y'all. They don't do well with distractions. They don't do well with support. Without support. And I know Vol Nation is going to go down there in droves. I know that's going to be the case too. But it should be as toxic as almost any environment in the that's left in the playoffs so far.
615-737-1045. By the way, some major
Oh, my
news.
goodness. Did you just see that?
I missed it.
The PGA Tour is merging with Live Golf.
Holy smokes.
The Saudi-based league in Europe and around the world. That is wild.
I had to go make sure it was real.
I did too. I thought it was a fake account. Proposed
Holy
merger
smokes.
comes after PGA and Live were embroiled in lawsuits regarding antitrust claims. Deal will end all pending litigation. Well, I guess the Live guys can play in the Ryder Cup now.
I guess so.
That is wild. Anyway.
Unreal. Wow.
So those dudes that took the money now can go back into the clubhouse like, I told y'all.
Wow.
I had a check for
We'll
you.
see.
I had a check for you.
They're getting rewarded for making a pretty bad decision, but interesting.
Oh, my.
Imagine that.
Anyway,
goodness.
back to the phones where Greg is in Mississippi, where Tennessee will be heading this weekend. What's up, Greg?
What's up, Greg?
Man, you blew me away with the Live for a second.
Yeah,
Let me focus. I tried to call in because I wanted to hear my favorite Washington State's Cougar. I saw on Twitter, why did you think, Kayla, that Tennessee should host? Because I was trying to call in and tell you why I thought Southern should host.
Sure.
We know what the deal is, but why did you think the Vols should host?
I just think, first of all, when you look at the competition that they've faced throughout the season, but especially, when you look at the regional action that they went up against at Clemson, the business they took care of there, compared to, not saying that Southern Miss I think it's a great team. I just think the competition was better specifically in the regional action too. And then you just look at their overall RPI. And you have seen what Tennessee has done in the past in terms of hosting. Great environment, right? That's why I kind of thought overall Tennessee should, but it didn't take anything away from why I think Southern Miss should be able to host as well. I mean, look at the situation with their head coach. They've clearly played good baseball this season. Their record proves it. And it is a situation where if you've been to Southern Miss, they love their baseball there too, right? They have a great environment.
Well, I think when I read what they look at the tiebreaker, they looked at, I guess, the NCAA is about money.
Yeah.
Southern Miss actually had higher attendance than Tennessee. If you saw that, about maybe 700 more, almost a little under 5,000. Southern, I think the RPI was higher than Tennessee's.
It was
And
not.
I guess if you looked at it, okay, the Vols were 16 and 14 in the SEC. If you look maybe what they did against the top of the league, I guess they did sweep Vandy. But I saw them in Baton Rouge lose 2 out of 3 to LSU when I was traveling. They lost to Florida. Southern Miss was second in there behind Coastal. Had a decent, RPI. I just think Southern also did a good job of hosting last year. Letting Ole Miss go in there and win, that was bad. I think it's going to be motivation to get Coach Berry one shot to Omaha. My 75-1 long shot is still alive. Sorry about your Coastal pick, Kayla. They didn't make it. But enjoying you guys. To the top. Come on down here, Vol Nation. Come on down here, Ramon. We'll take you somewhere down here to Eden, Hattiesburg. Southern Miss is going to the top and topple over your Tennessee Vols. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Greg.
Little trash talk
We got
Tuesday.
trash talking
would
on
hope
this
it-
Tuesday.
I would hope attendance would be better because the stadium's 1,000 seats bigger.
Well, that's what
Is
I was
it?
going to ask you. Is their stadium
it is.
bigger? Okay.
Pete Taylor Field has about 1,000 more fans than Neyland Stadium, and that is the only thing where Southern Miss had a better case of hosting.
So
that
it's
and
like
the sentimental aspect of their
Okay.
coach retiring.
it's like put 1,000 more in, right?
Interesting.
Mike Wilson on Twitter says, don't let the Live Golf /PGA Tour news distract you from the fact that the NCAA committee awarded a super regional host bid to a team ranked 6 spots lower than Tennessee in the all-powerful RPI.
That's crazy.
Embrace it, Tennessee fans.
Embrace it. I like this type of stuff.
I'm just ready for a good super regional.
Me too.
That's what I'm talking
It
about.
should be good and toxic, Kayla. I
Yeah.
am here for that type of energy, baby.
Matt on Twitter asks, why was there discussion about where Tennessee would play, and last night during the UK game, they already knew the winner would play in Baton Rouge? That's because the top 16 teams are seeded, and the rest of the teams are not. So Tennessee and Southern Miss were each 2 seeds. There is no advantage between the two in who would host. So there's a bidding process to then decide which team will host. If you have a 2 seed playing a 5 seed playing a 12, the 5 is going to host because they're the higher seeded team.
Right.
Yep.
Tennessee and Southern Miss are technically seated on the same line.
Yep.
That being said, that doesn't always happen, but 90% of the time, the higher seeded 1 seeds host. That was not the case, though, with TCU.
That was wild, Will.
TCU is a 2 seed that will be hosting a seeded national team this upcoming weekend, which I think is interesting.
And you said Indiana State got hosed?
Yo, well, that's what.
Well,
no,
yeah.
Indiana State, has to go to TCU,
They were the
crazy.
national seed.
even
yeah.
though they're a
national seed.
national seed, and TCU is not.
That blows my mind. Why would that be the case?
Bigger ballpark, better lodging, better hotels, better opportunities to host a full super regional versus Terre Haute, Indiana, that has a graveyard in left field.
I
Literally.
wonder. Yeah, I know.
It just sucks though.
I wonder
There's no
where
getting
like the
around
money
it.
split. Like they lose that because it's one thing Indiana State could use is more money for hosting. Like so, all of that is out of the equation because we're a smaller school that dominates.
Here, Indiana
That
State.
sucks.
Here's the rules. We'll
Yeah.
follow them until the regionals,
Until you-
and then we're gonna kind of finagle the rules a little bit.
Yeah, because like that sucks for them. It really does. They've done everything you asked them to do, and you let them host a region, but not the super region. I get it. I do. Legitimately
Money.
do. But there got to be a split somewhere. You got to grease them somewhere.
Are these Sycamores?
Yes.
Okay.
Home of one Larry Bird.
Yes, indeed.
I'm still shook that Live and PGA are merging.
I know it is off
This
the
is
rail.
like that is a bombshell that you've not heard any rumblings of that.
nothing.
It's like Kanye and Taylor Swift getting together.
Oh my gosh, there it is.
Yeah.
Like, on
Yeah.
what planet? I'm
There
here
it
for it
is.
because the breakup album is going to be incredible. But
Oh my gosh.
Phil Mickelson just tweeted, "Today is a good day," with a smiley face. Or awesome day today. Phil, buddy.
I'm sure it is, Phil.
This is
How much
just-
money did
'Cause
Phil
he
bet
won.
on this happening?
it's hard to frown
sorry.
when your pockets are that fat.
That's the only thing I can think about right now. Like, imagine being on the wrong side of history and still getting rewarded.
This is like when Michael Scott formed the Michael Scott Paper Company and took all of Dunder Mifflin's clients and then walked back into Dunder Mifflin Scranton and said, well, how the turntables?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So Brandon Rushing in the FNM Bank chat is saying Indiana State is actually hosting the Special Olympics, and that could be the reason. Why? Because there is no lodging. And so
Cannot
lie
confirm
to
that.
us.
Yeah.
They'll lie to us.
Yeah, I
Whatever
don't know.
make them sleep well. At
The
night.
FNM Bank chat does not have the
Save.
verified check mark. Well, no one has verified check marks.
I
anymore,
think
so
I'm gonna have
who's
to
say?
get one to get my
That may be
friggin'
right,
Twitter
though.
account.
I think it
right.
is correct, though.
If y'all see me with a blue check, man, just know I lost my account. I don't know how to get it back, so don't judge me.
Yeah, Indiana
so this
State.
is what it is.
Indiana State released a statement yesterday,
me,
so
Bert?
that comment is correct. It
Yeah.
says, due to prior commitments, accommodations are not available in the community preparing to welcome Indiana Special Olympics for the 51st year.
That's real.
We are
Yeah.
unable to host the Super Regionals in the coming week. So that is correct.
Yeah, which is a great, by the way, Special Olympics. Very cool event.
Yes, it is.
Just stinks that,
One of my former teammates, Joe Hayden, man, one of the best things coming
Joe
out of
Hayden.
Cleveland Browns, does a really good job being an ambassador for the Special Olympics.
It's a cool thing.
Coming up next, Ron Slay will join us, and he'll join the discussion about Tennessee baseball and being a villain and going on the road to Hattiesburg this upcoming weekend. Don Davenport also texted me saying, yes, that is correct. They're hosting the Special Olympics. Thank you, Don.
There you go.
What up, Babs?
Perfect.
There we go.
Well, from one 3HL teammate to another, we'll have Ron Slade join the discussion. Coming up next, it's Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone. It's RKW, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh, and Rod Slay stopping by his weekly visit here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. The major breaking news, the PGA Tour will merge with Saudi-backed rival Live Golf. That from CNBC about 15 minutes ago. And Tennessee will be headed to the Hattiesburg Super Regional this weekend. We've got a ton of breaking news to discuss here in our fourth and final hour before the Buck Rising Show takes over coming up next. Good morning, Slay. How are we?
What's happening, good people? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's
It always
up?
smells good when you walk in. What is
Man,
that?
guess what, KK? That's what I always said about my career, man. I always wanted to leave an impacting, you know what I mean, presence on people wherever I went. So, you know, outside of that, that's what I want to do when I walk in the room, too. Leave an impression. You
See,
know
the
what I'm
thing
saying?
is, he don't ever tell you what he has on, though. I've been trying to figure out what it is.
Right?
He just
He
dodged
keeps
that.
it a secret.
You really did.
feel me?
You
know what I
dodged
mean?
that, too.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah,
you know,
he did.
That's part of it.
Because you gave an answer without giving the answer.
I learned it from my dog.
Hey, now.
That's his secret right there.
You know what I'm saying, KK?
I get it.
Yeah, man. You know, just know, you know, it's out there. Just know I'm in the room. You know what I'm talking about. What's up, Will Lee?
How are you?
Welcome back, Will Lee.
Thank you.
He was gone last week on
I
this.
was gone last week.
What's going on this
Will Lee
last
was about
week?
this thing, man. Just out here living his best life.
You call him Will Lee often. I got to ask him real quick before we dive in. You have numerous brothers and sisters. Did you ever have a mix-up in your name? Was you ever a boy, or was you ever a son? Like, what were you?
I was always, with my sisters, I was always Ronald.
Ronald.
That's my grandfather. That was my grandfather's name.
That's a real one. He was a real one.
Yep. Oh, he was.
Yeah, I'm saying. My mom and my sisters always call me Ronald.
Okay.
Big head or Ronald.
Big head.
My sisters call me Big Head. Yeah. My mom, Ronald or Ron.
You grew into it, though.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you, KK. You know. But no, I never mix up, man. No, I never mix up.
Never mix up.
No.
Okay. All right, for sure.
I think it was a mix up when I got older and people started saying Slay. When I was removed and they were still in high school and stuff, so I would go back to watch their games and stuff, and somebody would holler out Slay, and I'd be like, "Ooh, which one you talking about?" You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Other than that, nah, man.
I've always just been y'all little bro, Lil Foster.
That's
Ron Slay, little bro.
Now you savage though.
Yeah, now I'm savage. Savagery.
Hey man, y'all been having a good time up here this morning though, man. I've been peeping y'all.
Did you hear the Burt trivia?
I did hear Burt trivia.
believe it.
Burt wild boy. Burt a wild boy. I think that ought to be Burt introduction. You know what I'm saying? Burt a wild boy. You know what I mean?
Wild man Robert Walsh.
Wild
boy.
Yeah, that's a wild boy right there. You know what I mean? Leave it kind of like that. You know, that's just something to kind of roam out there in the forest. You really don't know what it is. It's just, dang, that was a wild boy right there. Y'all see that?
As interesting as you think I am, I would much rather play Ron Slay trivia.
Right?
That's a wild trivia.
That's a wild trivia.
I mean, we've got a full summer to fill after minicamp is over.
Hey, we got Tuesday. That's what Tuesdays are for.
We may have found something with playing trivia between Ramon and Kayla on the show. Because I love being a cheesy game show host.
Yeah.
Arcade Dub trivia.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm awful at multiple choice, so I am. I hate multiple choice.
Just let you figure the answer out on your own.
Fill in the blank.
Right?
Don't get me started on guessing.
Hey, my dog's gonna get it to you. That's
around giving animal a first name. Feel me? His name is Bruce. What kind of animal? That's a Bruce.
Like what?
Just that. I tell you
just
what.
that.
Those geese come my way. We're gonna have a real.
I heard you talking about
yeah.
it. You was right. And Will Lee, I heard you talking about it being on the golf course. Listen, hey. I'm an amateur golfer, man, but I know what to do with a club if a goose come my way.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm letting it go.
Pitch and wedge in hand. Let's go. Come on.
I have hard times making contact on that ball with my driving and stuff, but boy, that goose, boy, that ass is mine.
That's gonna be
I'll tell you that right now.
That'll be the first birdie you ever make.
There you go. Dad jokes.
Smooth off
The club head could be open or closed. It's not gonna matter. That bird is gonna fly into the air one way or another.
Oh, yeah. Somebody else gonna have to understand that one.
I'm telling you.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, that's gonna be the homies.
Gonna be a real
Like
mark
Pac
at
said
the
when
end.
my homies called, that's all you gonna hear because they gone. But get on out of here.
I'm here to tell y'all
menacing
this,
sound.
man. I don't know why they protect it, but if they come for me and if I start running first, that means I really feel threatened.
Yeah.
After the run,
It's on. Yeah. I ain't got no club in my hand. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna do a little hop skip run.
I'm out here. Hear me. Shout out to Brett Kern. I'm out here like him. You hear me? I'm going for the body on the foot first.
Yeah.
Wild boy, Robert Walsh.
There's a big foot to be put in somebody's chest.
Hey, me and Kern going down into the Titans ring of fame. You hear me?
People do forget Ramon Foster was quite the kicker.
Hey, I'm telling you.
Quite the kicker at Ripley High School.
Hey,
that.
Student body president.
Hey,
Beta Club.
Beta Club. You feel me?
You're a much bigger nerd than we give you credit for.
You feel me? Got to know how to play both sides.
Be savvy. Gotta be savvy.
Always. I'm
Gotta
kicking
be
it with the
savvy.
golf kids.
Savvy Savage.
You hear me? I was a nerd with glasses, hooped with the athletes, multifaceted out here.
Anyway,
Will.
all right, enough praise of you. Slay, how do you feel about Tennessee going to Hattiesburg this weekend?
You know what? I'm cool with it, man. I would most definitely love for it to be in Knoxville.
Man.
Like without question, it will be a trip made up there if that was the case. I don't care if I was in the game. I'd just be up there. You know, I might be over somebody's house, but I would be in Knoxville watching the game. So I think that's the thing you miss out on. Outside of that, I think this team is primed. I think they're primed for it. You know, you look at the situations over the years for them to get to this point. The foundation has been laid, and then you see this team right here through the adversity that they. Come on, Lom, I'm already up. You see the adversity? Yeah, that little Lom. They trying to wake me up. Adversity that comes through with this team, whether it be pitching, whether it be fielding, whether it be batting, whatever it is, they get it done somehow, some way. Yeah, it's moments. Yeah, and that builds, and nothing prepares you more for a road trip than those adversities you've been through. You know, and a lot of that happened on the road with them this year. So. They've been down, they lost, they've been able to bounce back. They've had guys out. You know, it's numerous things. Pitching not come through. It's a lot, but I think you would love to have it at home, but you wouldn't if this is what it is, we got to go to Hattiesburg. Let's roll.
And that's what's so fun about college baseball is because the craziest things can happen throughout a season, and sometimes it doesn't matter with Ole Miss getting in last minute, right? And then winning it all. And this is just one of those things where at this point, I think it's anybody's championship to win. They got to get there, obviously.
Yep.
But at that point, they have the pieces.
No question.
They have the pieces.
No question. And you got to look at the coach of Southern Miss, and it's the writing's on the wall for them for the Cinderella story and everything. But we also learned last year in sports, Cinderella story doesn't always go as written. You know, looking at Coach K. Well, no way Coach K was supposed to lose that game. But as an opponent, you want nothing more than to send that man off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Right there. Now, see, that would be my whole thing. Listen, we're going to make it easy for you. You already home. All you got to do is walk in your door. You ain't got to get back on no plane or anything. This is real easy for you, brother. We commend you, though. Thank you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Thank you for your services and everything you brought to the college game, man. But listen here, we're going to send you on your way. We got somewhere to go. Yeah. And y'all ain't invited. And we're going to make sure of it. So I think this thing, and it's a quiet confidence about this Tennessee team, too. You know, I think a lot of it was learned last year, the rules that were set in place. This team has learned from that. And you still always want to hear, you want some of that Drew Beam. What's I got? Gilbert. You want some of that Drew Gilbert.
Sure.
Yeah, you want some of that every now and then, but it's like, okay, keep it tame. But then you all of a sudden you'll see, like when Dickey made that throw to get the guy out, came over with Vitello got hyped with him. Okay, there it is. So it still is there. You know what I'm saying? But they do it, they manage it better, you know. So I think this team ready for it, man.
And I think that's interesting, Slade, too, because if you listen to Tony Vitello's post-game comments after they beat Clemson, one of the first things he said was, you play this game enough, you got to get a little lucky, and we may have even gotten a little lucky tonight.
Yeah.
Sure.
You see the video of him actually just going to Frank Anderson, the pitching coach, and just really quietly shaking his hand. And the video of it in the press conferences, you listen to those guys, there was no beating their chest and yelling about knocking off a number 1 seed, the number 4 team in 14 innings.
Right.
Like even the players were like, yeah, it's a long regional.
Yeah.
It's a long tournament. It does feel like they got humbled a little bit last year. Time will tell whether or not they're humble enough to win and to get to Omaha. And you got to have talent to do that too. There are other variables. But I do maybe think they kind of learned their lesson from last year.
Yeah, and they learned it through experience.
Right.
So you can't overreact, can't get too high, can't get too low. I think it was more of and I looked at Vitello when he turned and shook the coach's hand, and I was like, oh, wow, he's just calm and stoic. Like, everything's all right, okay.
Yeah.
And it was more so that, man, we on to tomorrow. Like, we got to get ready for tomorrow. Let's rest. Let's keep them cool. And then you saw after the Charlotte game, he do the airplane through him. Like, so it's still all there, but you learn through experiences, and you can't make adjustments going through a journey if you never had the experience through it. So you just step in.
Right.
Now you got footprints already laid for you, what not to do, how to do it, how to prepare, what to do when you get to those moments, and they following that.
And what's fascinating too about this, just like you say, you look at what this team's been through, the clips you will call them, right? Like the adversity they've had. Dolander.
Yep.
You get an opportunity now to go back on the road and perform again. Like, you won that as you talking about him going and shaking the pitching coach's hand. Like, be real with ourselves.
Sure.
If they didn't have enough confidence to keep Chase Burns in, because he was due to come out.
Yeah.
He was on his way, and they say, you stick with him. Look at that side of it now. So you get another arm that just went 90+. I think it was 102, if I'm not mistaken, this past weekend. And then you have Dolander have the ability, you know what? I ain't going to say he crapped the bed, but he didn't finish the game the way he wanted, the way he started it.
99 pitches.
99 pitches.
His season high.
Burns. Yep. And he hadn't thrown that in ages.
Not since last year.
Not since last year. So a lot of things have kind of happened. Yeah, look, they luckily fell into Burns doing that. They luckily also had to pull out Dolander sooner.
Yep.
And then, of course, the 2-out rally.
Yep.
That game was supposed to be done, y'all.
It was a done deal.
Yeah.
Who hits a home run in that situation?
That was nuts.
That's tough. Yeah, that is tough. Drew Gilbert, outside of Drew
Right?
Gilbert.
Yeah.
It's different though, man. You gotta tip your cap to him, and I think also with that Notre Dame loss, that was a stinging in that feeling. Even though like this is a different team, but you're still some of those core guys there, and I think they took on. You grow up quick in those moments, or you shrink and you never get back to it.
Right.
So I think you get an opportunity to see these guys grow up, and that's good to see too.
How difficult is that, Slade, to walk the balance between confidence and cockiness? Because I know we've talked about this before when you were playing and being able to feel confident in your own abilities. I think this is where the conversation becomes more broad when you talk about quarterbacks like Will Levis.
Right.
And guys like that who, we were talking with Tyler Dunne this morning and said, some people are kind of turned off by the cockiness that he has.
Right.
Some guys like Mike Vrabel are going to love it. Mm-hmm. Where is that tipping point for a team like Tennessee and then maybe a quarterback like Will Levis where you want to have belief in yourself, but when that teeters on cockiness, then you're hurting yourself rather than helping yourself?
I think the most important thing coming from a guy that's perceived to be cocky, confident, whichever one, is when people don't understand who's riding with them, if that makes sense. Like, in order for me to be who I am when I was at Tennessee, and I would say, yeah, I'm most definitely cocky, but it's confidence in my cockiness. You know what I'm saying? So
you backing that up.
Yeah, I'm always going to deliver, and I always know that my team knows exactly what to expect when I come out there. Now, it's one thing to go out there and you just start flying off the handle and just talking trash and you're like carrying yourself this way, and they ain't never seen you do this.
Right.
So one thing that everyone knew, and this was from journalists to analysts to whatever it may be, they all came to practice and was like, damn, he just like he acting the same way in practice that he do in the game, like running in the stands and all that. Like this, I'm doing the exact same thing. As soon as I hit the flow, it's on. Through the stretching, it's on. You know what I'm saying? So it was nothing that was unexpected. I think it's unexpected when you get in front of a microphone and a camera and you start talking and you're like, and your teammates sitting back there like, what is he talking about? Like, you feel what I'm saying?
He's not like that in practice.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute now. It's then you get the blurred lines in between. So I think you got to be able to have your teammates blessings to be able to go out and talk that way, because anytime you gon' fall without question. But how many times do you have them behind you to pick you up and be like, hey man, we got you, man. Keep being you, dog. It's all right. And you see that in many cases. I honestly didn't get to see that in Will Levis last year because everybody got on his offensive line and gave them the brunt of the attack, saying that was the reason, and he didn't have weapons and all of that stuff. We didn't hear anything about that last year. The year before, I mean.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, the same way you stand in front of that gauntlet when you were really good, standing in front of it the same way.
Yeah.
That's my whole thing. I don't mean you got to get louder, but one thing that has to get louder is your play got to get louder. And this play never got louder. That's what only thing rubbed me wrong.
Coming up next, we wrap up the show and get into a little bit of Titans discussion with Slay. If you can, after the break, give us the storyline you're most interested in at minicamp this week. Whether it's Kevin Byard, quarterback, secondary, we've shared our thoughts on that as the Titans open up mandatory minicamp today. We will wrap up the show and get you on your way. Coming up next with Slay here on RKW 104.5 The Zone. One final
It's
segment
last
this
week.
morning of RKW, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Here in the 104.5 The Zone studios, the praise pouring in for Robert Walsh. It's a good vibe when Slay's in the building. Good vibe just in general with Robert's music choices. It's been good.
Yeah. Bert always come through, man. Bert gave me Scarface last week, man.
Ooh,
then
yeah.
brought it back with his partners, Ghetto Boys. So yeah, I'm with that.
There we go, Bert. Wait,
Before
the
we
vibe.
to the street.
we get to this Titans conversation with Slay on the way out here, Dan Rappaport, who covers the PGA Tour on a big golf podcast on Barstool Sports, says PGA Tour didn't communicate this news to players at all. They found out the same time we did. Quote, shocked and confused, one player tells him. Quote, disgusted, they didn't tell us anything, another player tells him. And then Colin Morikawa, one of the best American golfers in the world, one of the best golfers in the world, says, I love finding out morning news on Twitter.
I love
Good
it.
morning.
That is
Yeah, wake up.
crazy.
Know why they're disgusted? Like I'll bring it. You follow the dollars. I do think like
I don't know, though. It's a complex issue, man. Like, we were talking about this in the break. Like, there's
That's
like
tough.
20 different elements of this, of like, Liv was on the CW. You're never going to survive just being on the CW, even though you have all the money you need. And then the world rankings for players in Liv, like translating over to this season, like another year, and like a lot of them weren't going to be able to play in majors. A lot of them probably weren't going to be in the Ryder Cup. Now they can play it. The Ryder Cup just got awesome.
But
in
when
September.
scandals and stuff go down and big Fortune 500 companies crumble and things of that nature, they always say follow the money.
follow the money.
Like I've yet to see the money lose, regardless if they came with mutual agreements or what.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still if Liv goes back to day one, it's a win-win for them.
They're still a part of it.
Yeah,
Their name is
you know
still,
what I'm saying. That, and like,
Right.
I just.
Yeah.
They couldn't lose in this. To me, it was more about PGA, and I know they both probably came to mutual agreements, but to me, it was more about the PGA Tour being like, all right, y'all, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, because Liv started at 0.
Right.
PGA was at 100. Now, for them to even reach 70, it's like, wow. Like, you really made them rethink some things.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, we were talking about this a year ago. This is not even supposed to be a conversation.
No.
It was
No.
like we would never hear about.
No.
You
It
feel what I'm
wasn't a
saying?
conversation now.
Yeah,
I mean,
even
it came
now.
out of the blue,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
Golf writers are like
That's weird,
shook
man.
right now.
Sure.
There's no mention of Greg Norman in the merger announcement, which is interesting because he was kind of the head and the face of Liv.
Right.
The European Tour also merging with the PGA Tour. That's kind of the throw in here.
Okay. Wow.
You're right, Savage. Never in the history of a scandal has the money not won.
That was it.
Or never been the focus point.
At some point.
By the way, this is crazy.
Something tickled your fancy right there, Will.
Something else going on from Southern Miss Baseball.
Here we go. See?
Okay.
0 tickets will be sold to the public because only season ticket holders for Southern Miss Baseball will get tickets.
Okay.
This is such
I
a
don't,
Mississippi thing.
What in the world?
I don't like that.
Isn't that reason enough to not host a super regional?
Mississippi.
I'm not going to complain about it. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to complain about the merit
now
thing.
I am. I
but
wasn't.
that logistically doesn't make sense.
I'm not
So
liking
hold on,
that.
wait. So what? No tickets. So who's gonna have to? The season ticket holders gonna have to sell their tickets?
I think there is an allotment that will go to Tennessee because the NCAA
What, 200?
always has. Probably.
Like,
I'm serious.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Quote from the Southern Miss release, Ben McKee, GoVols 247 has put this out. Season ticket holders at Pete Taylor Park. That sounds like a Brentwood Civitan. Sounds like,
Pete Taylor
where are
Park.
you playing
Taylor.
Brentwood Civitan this weekend? Oh, out at Pete Taylor Park out back. That's field 8. Anyway.
Peter be there himself.
Yeah. Pete's barbecue.
Does Pete Taylor get tickets? We'll receive information regarding tickets. Southern Miss Athletics does not anticipate selling tickets to the general public due to selling out Pete Taylor Park this season.
Brett Favre must have been at the top
Come
of this.
on now.
Yeah, I'm sure him and
Come
his
on
whole
now.
Speaking of
Yeah.
corrupt
Family.
organizations,
He's out there
Brett
selling
Favre
jeans
plays.
and
Right.
everything. Got a collection plate trying to. Hey, yeah. All right.
Mentioning Brett Favre and Greg Norman in the same segment, that's two historic scumbags in sports.
I wasn't
Don't
against
sue me,
it.
Brett. I promise
I
I'm not.
swear,
I don't have
allegedly,
those pockets.
That was a joke. Gosh. It
I
was a
wonder
joke,
if Brett will be there. Maybe he'll be
They
there.
got to. How many times they get big events like this?
Kevin, Brett will sue you.
They will sue.
Brett, please don't sue me if you're
My
listening.
bad. It was a joke, Brad. We
Brett,
played
I
against
promise
each
you,
other.
I am not that guy.
Golly.
Slay, what are you interested today at minicamp? What are you interested in today?
Look, first question. Are they in pads? No.
No, not in minicamp.
Okay,
You
yeah.
don't get
all
the
right.
pass
so,
count.
Yeah,
No
so
pads.
I'm gonna go with y'all heard y'all talking about wide receiver one. That's my guy. Listen, I'm all on board with him.
Traylon Train?
Yeah, without question. Tajay Spears, I'm on board with. I'm gonna have to go with Kyle Phillips. I want to see
Yeah.
if he's healthy to get out there, because man, going back and watching that doggone New York Giants game, dog, I said on our show, even when they weren't targeting him, he was getting off the line clean.
Yep.
Like that dude's feet.
He can move.
And in tight quarters.
Yes.
You know what I'm
'Cause
saying?
he's smaller.
Yeah, and man, hey, he get behind the guys and everything. So I think because we're looking for somebody to emerge outside of Traylon, we know what to expect. We know what to expect from Shig. I believe NWI steady. We know what if we can get Kyle Phillips, man, that's something different with Tajay coming out the back. Like you talking about some options.
Yeah, serious.
I know it. Hey, I know the names are not screaming off the roster to like, hey, look at me. But man, the production, if them guys are healthy, look out. I'm gonna be honest. I'm looking forward to Kyle Phillips, man. I want to see some Kyle Phillips
Does
action.
KB show up?
I think he does. Just for the simple reason throughout his career, and we just talked about like leaving a situation, you want to walk away from anything being a consummate pro, regardless of what somebody else does.
Sure.
If that's been your legacy, and I don't see why he would come into this and tarnish that, even though he would be in the right. You know what I'm saying? But to make a point in minicamp about something like that. Like,
more so for his teammates, I think, than anything,
and
right?
he's a leader.
Yeah.
That's who he is. I don't expect him to change who he is because of something that somebody else had said.
You know what? Sometimes the good guy got to go bad.
Oh, ain't no question about it.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if it was him to go bad. I'd be shocked. If it was me, I'd be like, wow.
He's like, I am.
They're
a
like
bad
Bert,
boy.
you're a wild boy. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
And at the end of the show now, we've got more rumblings of Lionel Messi coming to Major League Soccer.
Oh, boy.
So what a day.
What the heck is going on?
Is it a full moon?
For who?
For Inter Miami. We've got more rumblings. It's a wild day in sports. Stay tuned on to the Lucas Panzica show with Buck Rising coming up next with all of the latest developments. Maybe Taylor Swift and Kanye will announce they're getting back together like Robert Walsh implied earlier. We're back at it at 6 a.m. Slay, thank you for being here as
No
always.
doubt, baby. Anytime.
And Ramon Foster, thank you for your words of wisdom to the people.
You got to remember, man, to live in PGA didn't tell us nothing, okay? But your IG Live, your Twitter fingers, and your mic always hot.
So
was.